Chapter 56:31. Lin Feng continued to walk inside. In the following period of time, he found more than a dozen corpses. These cultivators all died in the same way. However, Lin Feng walked for so long and still didn't encounter any danger. This place didn't even have restrictions. It was reasonable to say that this place was where everyone was tested. Why were there no restrictions? It was really quite strange. The more peaceful a place was, the more dangerous it might be. Lin Feng was very clear about this. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't dare to be careless. He was very vigilant and carefully used his spiritual force to sense the surroundings. Not long after, Lin Feng saw a few more corpses. These corpses fell outside a valley. After seeing these corpses, Lin Feng quickly walked over and checked the situation of these corpses. These corpses died in the same way as the cultivators before. However, one of the corpses caught Lin Feng's attention. This corpse had died in the same way as the other corpses. However, there were some blood-colored words in the palm of this corpse. Unfortunately, these words couldn't be seen clearly. This made Lin Feng feel a little helpless. This was the only clue, but it was broken just like that. At this moment, a scream of horror came from afar. After hearing that scream, Lin Feng quickly flew over. In a mountain not far away, Lin Feng saw the cultivator surnamed Liu, who had a verbal conflict with him before. At this moment, the cultivator surnamed Liu's body fell to the ground and twitched violently. Lin Feng quickly came to the side of the cultivator surnamed Liu. Lin Feng wanted to get some clues from him, but when Lin Feng came to his side, the cultivator was already dead. His pupils suddenly widened, as if he had experienced something terrifying before he died. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. This cultivator had died in such a strange way. However, Lin Feng didn't find any clues. How did he die? This time, Lin Feng even watched him die. Lin Feng went to check his soul and found that his soul didn't suffer any damage. However, he still died. It was very strange. This method of death seemed to be cursed. Lin Feng sensed for a moment and didn't feel the power of the curse. Although he didn't feel the power of the curse, Lin Feng still felt that it might be related to the curse. Not long after, Lin Feng heard another scream. Lin Feng quickly rushed over. This time, it was a woman who had screamed. There were a total of 3 women participating in the test. This woman was one of them. At that moment, the woman was hugging her head and leaning against a tree. She was shrieking in pain. Nobody knew what was going on. Lin Feng arrived next to the woman. Then, he gently touched the woman's body. The woman immediately quieted down. Then, her body softly fell into Lin Feng's arms. The woman looked to be around 30 years old. Of course, her real age was obviously more than that. She had a voluptuous figure and was quite beautiful. After falling into Lin Feng's arms, she finally showed an expression of relief. He wondered what she had gone through in the past. In order to prevent any other accidents from happening to the woman, Lin Feng carefully checked her body and soul. After finding that there were no problems, Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. The woman didn't die. It was a happy thing. When she woke up later, he could ask her about some of the things she had encountered before. Lin Feng found a place to put the woman down. The woman's breathing gradually stabilized. When night fell, the woman woke up. I actually didn't die. The woman was pleasantly surprised after waking up. She sat up and saw Lin Feng. It's you? The woman asked. She clearly recognized Lin Feng. Although she didn't know who Lin Feng was, they had taken the test together. Naturally, she still remembered Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded and said, How do you feel now? I feel much better now. You must have saved me. Thank you for saving me. The woman said. Lin Feng said, No need to thank me. Oh, right. What on earth did you experience during the day? Why did you feel so much pain? The woman said, It felt like a special power invaded my body, making it difficult for me to control my body. Then, I fell into a world of darkness. I saw many terrifying scenes. I wanted to struggle and resist, but I couldn't. I thought I was going to die, but at that moment, a ray of light appeared in the darkness. After seeing that light, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I saw you, sir. Now that I think about it, was that ray of light because of Sir's arrival? Hearing the woman's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but be astonished. Then, he frowned. What was going on? Could it be that the strange energy had pulled her into a dark world? Could it be that those people had died in the same way? At that moment, the woman who had been talking to Lin Feng revealed a strange smile. Then, she suddenly sent a palm strike at Lin Feng. Luckily, Lin Feng was extremely strong, and his reactions were extremely fast. Although the two of them were very close to each other, the woman suddenly launched a sneak attack at Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng still managed to react. Lin Feng sent a palm strike at the woman, and the two of them collided. They were evenly matched. The woman's sneak attack had failed, and her body quickly floated back. Chapter 56:32. Who are you? Lin Feng looked at the woman with a gloomy expression. The woman laughed sinisterly and said, "What a good method. You've made me feel a trace of excitement. Only killing an expert like you is interesting to me." "It won't be that easy to kill me," Lin Feng sneered. The woman revealed a strange smile. Then her eyes dimmed, and her body fell to the ground. Lin Feng could clearly feel that when her body fell to the ground, all the vitality in her body quickly disappeared. Lin Feng quickly walked over and checked the woman's condition. The woman's eyes suddenly widened, and she died in the same way. Lin Feng's expression became more and more serious. Why did the woman suddenly seem like a different person after waking up? Then she attacked him. Then she suddenly died. Was he possessed by something just now? Lin Feng felt that this might be the reason. He felt that although the person who had just spoken was still in the woman's body, her soul seemed to have been replaced by the soul of another creature. But Lin Feng didn't feel anything approaching. Lin Feng had checked her soul before, and there was no problem at all. With Lin Feng's powerful cultivation, it was basically impossible for the other party to hide from him. But the thing was, everything clearly pointed to the woman being controlled. This was also something that Lin Feng couldn't understand. Looking at the woman's corpse, Lin Feng sighed. She was originally a peerless beauty, but unfortunately, she had died in this place. It was really a pity. But the world of cultivators was really too cruel. Who knew how many people died every day? And among those who died, who knew how many beauties there were? Lin Feng left the place and found a place to rest. Lin Feng sat cross-legged. The night was getting darker, and he couldn't see his own fingers. A gloomy aura filled the world. At that moment, Lin Feng clearly felt that a strange power was invading his body. When Lin Feng wanted to resist, he found that his body couldn't. Lin Feng felt that things were a little bad. Was this the strange energy that the woman had mentioned before? What kind of energy was this? Soon, Lin Feng felt that his thoughts were still there, but he lost control of his body. Then, Lin Feng felt that he had arrived in a dark world. Then, Lin Feng saw countless scenes. Those scenes included his family, relatives, lovers, friends, fellow disciples, subordinates, and so on. At that moment, those scenes showed that they had all died miserably in the destruction of the world. Those scenes should be the scene of the end of the era, and he could only watch them die. There was no way to save them. The endless dark power was devouring him. Lin Feng could feel that he was walking towards death. No wonder these people were so terrified. They could clearly feel that they were being devoured by the darkness. They could clearly feel their lives slipping away, but they couldn't resist. Was there anything scarier than this situation? Watching one's loved ones, relatives, friends, subordinates, and so on die miserably and feeling their lives slipping away, yet they couldn't resist. The two emotions intertwined and dealt a heavy blow to one's soul. No one could resist. No one could break free from the darkness. Lin Feng was the same. He kept struggling, trying to escape from the darkness. He wanted to see the light. He wanted to return to the real world. He wanted to regain control of his body. But no matter how hard Lin Feng tried, he couldn't do it. What is hiding in the dark? Lin Feng shouted in the darkness. At that moment, a gloomy voice resounded, "Boy, I have to say that you have some tricks up your sleeve. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you know what's going on." When that voice resonated in the air, Lin Feng knew that the person who had caused all these strange things had appeared. "I'm a demon born from the darkness. I don't have a physical body. Strictly speaking, I'm just an extremely special form of energy. I can enter anyone's body and create a dark space of death. No matter who it is, as long as they're trapped in my space of death, they'll die, just like what you're going through right now." After hearing that, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. What kind of method was that? It was so strange. Lin Feng had never seen such a strange method before. It was really terrifying. It could kill people silently. Anyone who encountered such an existence would be terrified, because the unknown was the scariest. "Now that you know everything, you can die." The terrifying existence's voice resounded again. Then, endless darkness swept over, as if it wanted to devour Lin Feng's life. Suddenly, Lin Feng's voice resounded between heaven and earth. "I am the master of fate. I control the fate of all living things." After Lin Feng's voice resounded, an endless amount of holy light gushed out of Lin Feng's body. The dazzling holy light made Lin Feng look like an incomparably hot sun. When the light of the sun shone out, the darkness was dispelled. Lin Feng struggled out of the darkness. Then, he opened his eyes and summoned his 6 black holes. The black holes condensed together and sealed the void. An extremely strange energy was sealed in midair. This energy was the terrifying existence that had been hiding in the dark. "Seal." Lin Feng sneered. He directly sent out endless runes. The runes that surged out were combined with the stone scripture. The power of the stone scripture increased greatly. It directly sealed the unknown and terrifying existence. "Damn it! Damn it! Let go of me! Let go of me!" The unknown and terrifying existence struggled violently. However, Lin Feng's sealing runes were too terrifying. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free. Chapter 56:33. Ha 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 ha. Do you know how strong I am now? Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. He was feeling a little proud of himself. In fact, Lin Feng had planned to beat the other party at his own game. He had risked his life to lure the terrifying existence out, because that was the only way Lin Feng could lure it out. If he didn't lure the terrifying existence out, it would just hide in the dark. Who knew when it would attack? Lin Feng just so happened to have the Great Destiny Technique, and he also had a Destiny Bloodline. When the Great Destiny Technique and the Destiny Bloodline were used together, they could erupt with terrifying power. In other words, Lin Feng had managed to reverse fate at the most crucial moment. He had even managed to seal the terrifying existence. The terrifying existence was indeed very strong. The most powerful thing about it was its strange methods. It could silently kill people. If it hadn't appeared, no one would have been able to deal with it. If it hadn't let down its guard after getting carried away, Lin Feng wouldn't have been able to turn the tables on Lin Feng. At this moment, the terrifying being had clearly figured out the ins and outs of the entire matter. It roared furiously, "Brat, you're despicable and shameless. You tricked me on purpose." Lin Feng sneered, "Yes, I tricked you on purpose. You got carried away too much. If you hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to trick you even if I wanted to. You brought this upon yourself. Now, answer my questions honestly. If you don't, I'll use my heavenly flames to burn you alive." The terrifying existence said coldly, "I'm an energy body, and an immortal one at that. Your heavenly flames won't be able to burn me to death." Lin Feng sneered. Even if there was something in the world that was immortal, it definitely wasn't this guy. "Is that so? Then let's see if I can really burn you to death," said Lin Feng, smiling coldly. Then, he released his 8 types of celestial fire. When the cultivator saw that Lin Feng had 8 types of celestial fire, he couldn't believe his eyes. "How come you have so many celestial fires?" Lin Feng said, "That's because I'm awesome." The terrifying existence was speechless. This brat was too full of himself. Lin Feng said coldly, "Do you think I can burn you to death with these heavenly flames?" If Lin Feng only had 1 or 2 heavenly flames, he might not be able to burn this guy to death. However, Lin Feng now had 8 heavenly flames. It was simply unimaginable how terrifying the power of these heavenly flames would be when stacked together. Given enough time, Lin Feng could burn Lin Feng's heavenly flames to him. "Any's cultivation," said the terrifying existence with a gloomy expression. "Fine, you win. What do you want to ask?" Lin Feng asked, "How were you born?" Upon hearing Lin Feng's question, the terrifying existence said, "Actually, I was born because of some special reasons." After pausing for a moment, he continued, "Back then, I was just a strand of spirituality within the demonic energy. However, one day, I fused with a strand of the first celestial master's demonic will, and I began to transform." Lin Feng was astonished. He hadn't thought that such a terrifying cultivator would have something to do with him. The first celestial teacher was the one who had created the celestial teacher sect. He could be considered Lin Feng's ancestor. Lin Feng wasn't particularly familiar with the first celestial master. However, the celestial master Dao he had created back then was terrifying. From this, one could see how extraordinary the first celestial master was. However, Lin Feng was somewhat puzzled. With the first celestial master's ability, he should have been able to break the curse of the celestial master Dao, right? However, he hadn't been able to do so. Lin Feng asked, "Who was the first celestial master? Aren't you the successor of the celestial master Dao? You don't even know who the first celestial master is?" The terrifying existence asked. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. "Many of our records have disappeared. Of course, the first celestial master is a mystery. Is it strange that I don't know who the first celestial master is?" The terrifying existence said, "If that's the case, then I can understand. The first celestial master is called Yushang." "Yushang? You're saying that he's called Yushang?" Lin Feng was astonished. Back then, Lin Feng had seen some images of the mysterious metal box in the Supreme Divine Ability. He had seen a ruler who had been ambushed inside. That ruler was called Yushang. Were the two of them the same person? Asked Lin Feng. "You're talking about Yushang. Is he the ruler of Ba Huang?" The terrifying existence said, "Yes, it's him. He's the founder of the Celestial Master Dao. Back then, when he created the Celestial Master Dao, some methods of the Celestial Master Dao threatened some extremely terrifying existences. Therefore, those existences joined forces to destroy Yushang. Those existences are too terrifying. They're so terrifying that you can't even imagine them. I can only tell you that one of those people who joined forces was the ruler of the world of the Master Hand. Think about it. The ruler of the world of the Master Hand manipulated this universe. He destroyed epics one after another. He was a terrifying existence, but he was only one of those people. Oh? Actually, they wanted to kill Yushang, but Yushang was too strong. He fought with them until both sides were injured. Therefore, they joined forces to weaken Yushang's cultivation. Because Yushang's cultivation was weakened too much, he suffered a calamity later on. If Yushang's cultivation hadn't been weakened, perhaps the Celestial Master Dao wouldn't have been cursed. Lin Feng asked, "What do you mean? Are those existences who cursed the Celestial Master Dao mainly the ruler and the others behind the scenes?" The terrifying existence said, "That's right. It's those guys. Of course, there are many curses in the world. Some of them are related to them, but there are also many that have nothing to do with them. If you're an existence born from a strand of Yushang's demonic will, why are you here?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "I've been imprisoned in this place. I've tried to escape again and again, but I've never been able to." Chapter 56-34. You're imprisoned here? Who would imprison you here? Lin Feng asked curiously. The terrifying existence said, "Of course it was that bitch from the White Immortal Valley who imprisoned me here and tortured me for many years. She made me wish I was dead, and she refused to let me out. I hate her to death, and I want to eat her flesh and drink her blood. I want her to descend to the 18th level of hell, and I want her to never rise again. I want her to never be reincarnated." It seemed that the terrifying existence's hatred was quite deep. It was gnashing its teeth as it spoke. It wanted nothing more than to kill that bitch from White Immortal Valley. Lin Feng asked curiously, "Is there some kind of enmity between the two of you?" The terrifying existence said, "I don't even fucking know this woman. We met by chance, and then this woman captured me and imprisoned me here. You must have offended her with your words. That's why she attacked you." Lin Feng said. The terrifying being replied, "Offended my ass. I didn't even say a single word to her back then. Then she captured me. Now that I think about it, it's really depressing. If she hadn't captured me, I wouldn't have been able to imagine how terrifying I would have been all these years. Besides, because of her imprisonment, my strength has been greatly reduced. Otherwise, do you think you would have been able to seal me? This guy's words were quite true. After being sealed for so long, this guy's strength had indeed declined greatly. With such a drastic decline, it was very normal for him to be depressed. Is this place connected to the inner part of White Immortal Valley? Lin Feng asked. Correct. This place is connected to the inner part of White Immortal Valley. However, the natural laws here restrict me greatly, so I can't leave. You guys aren't restricted at all. Generally speaking, very few people would enter this trial path. I'm rather puzzled as to why you all would enter this place. The terrifying existence asked. I wanted to find the star map that led to the buried god's starfield, and I received news that the master of the White Immortal Valley knew about the star map. A woman called 100 Flower Fairy said that if I passed the test, I would be able to reach the depths of the White Immortal Valley and meet the master of the White Immortal Valley. So I participated in this test. Lin Feng said. The master of White Immortal Valley fell into a deep sleep a long time ago. Of course, she might have already died. I don't know the details because I've been imprisoned here all this time. I can't go out and see how she's doing. What? Is that so? When Lin Feng heard that, his expression suddenly changed. He had wanted to obtain the star map from the leader of the White Celestial Valley. If the leader of the White Celestial Valley died, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to obtain it. Of course. If that bitch hadn't encountered some terrible situation, why wouldn't she have come to torment me? I haven't sensed her life force all these years, so I think it's very likely that she has died. This was something that Lin Feng didn't expect. However, Lin Feng still had some doubts. The fact that 100 Flower Fairy could freely enter and leave White Immortal Valley meant that she had some sort of relationship with White Immortal Valley. Who exactly was she? Maybe Bai Hua Fairy knows the complete route. However, when she said that she didn't know, she was obviously lying to him. You know this 100 Flower Fairy, right? Lin Feng asked. I know this woman. Back then, she came to the White Immortal Valley with a keepsake, but I don't know what kind of relationship she has with the White Immortal Valley. Perhaps there's some history between them. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. The current situation was somewhat out of his expectations. Lin Feng couldn't help but think. This time, 100 Flower Fairy set him up to come here. She wanted him to die here, right? What kind of grudge do I have with 100 Flower Fairy? Lin Feng hadn't seen 100 Flower Fairy before, so he really didn't know what kind of grudge she had with him. As for that Fairy Phoenix Fairy, in Lin Feng's opinion, she was only one of 100 Flower Fairy's followers. The mastermind behind all of this was actually 100 Flower Fairy. Do you want to go out? Lin Feng asked. Yes. Of course I want to go out. Can you let me out? The terrifying existence hurriedly asked. Lin Feng nodded and said, Of course I can let you out. If you bring me to the exit, I'll let you out. The reason why he let this guy out was because Lin Feng felt that 100 Flower Fairy might have some powerful tricks up her sleeves. This terrifying existence might be of some use. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the terrifying existence became extremely excited. But then it shook its head and said, I'm heavily restricted by the laws here. I can't leave this place. Lin Feng said, Why can't you leave? Everything is possible. I'll use the Great Fate technique to change your fate. After your fate is changed, you can leave. Hearing that, the terrifying existence's eyes suddenly lit up. That's right. This guy in front of him knew the Great Fate technique and could change someone's fate. Once someone's fate was changed, some impossible things could happen. Very well, follow me. We'll go to the exit now. The terrifying existence said. Lin Feng removed the seal on the terrifying existence's body. This was because Lin Feng's power had already fused into its life force. Even if Lin Feng removed the seal, it still wouldn't be able to escape. Lin Feng wasn't afraid that it would ambush him again. Furthermore, Lin Feng felt that this guy really wanted to leave, so it probably wouldn't attack him again. After about an hour, they arrived at a valley. This place was filled with extremely powerful space-time laws. The terrifying existence said, after passing through the space-time laws in the depths of the valley, you'll be able to enter the core of the White Immortal Valley. You can go in now, but because I'm restricted by the laws here, I can't pass through." After saying that, the terrifying existence looked at Lin Feng expectantly. It hoped that Lin Feng could fulfill his promise and help it change its fate, allowing it to escape the restrictions of this place. End of chapter. Chapter 56:35. Since he had already agreed to this matter, Lin Feng naturally would not go back on his word. Lin Feng directly activated the Great Fate technique, and a powerful force of fate descended, directly enveloping this terrifying existence. Then, this terrifying existence's fate was immediately changed, and its life aura underwent an earth-shattering change. This terrifying existence excitedly laughed out loud. "My fate has been changed. I no longer need to be suppressed. This is great. I can finally see the light of day again." Right now, this terrifying existence was extremely excited. Previously, it had been imprisoned here. That kind of life was worse than death. However, it had always persevered. It hoped that one day it would be able to see the light of day again, and now it finally saw this hope. Said Lin Feng, "Congratulations, you're finally free. Now, let's go in together, but you better hide. Don't expose yourself." "Don't worry, I will hide very well. I want to see if that bitch from back then is already dead," this terrifying existence fiercely said. Its resentment towards that woman in the white immortal valley was truly great. Lin Feng and this terrifying existence directly passed through the distorted space-time, and then they entered a mountain forest filled with the fragrance of flowers and birds, spirit beasts galloping, and purple chi spewing out. The environment here was really too good. It was like a paradise. Without any disturbances, it was very peaceful. Even further away, immortal cranes flapped their wings and flew past. These immortal cranes were not afraid of people and soared above the 9 heavens. Lin Feng knew that this should be the core of the white immortal valley. Lin Feng did not know where 100 Flower Fairy and Phoenix Fairy were. He flew towards the depths, and not long after, 2 figures flew out from the depths. After seeing these 2 figures, Lin Feng revealed a cold smile, but then his expression returned to normal. The 2 people who flew out from the depths were none other than 100 Flower Fairy and Phoenix Fairy. 100 Flower Fairy and Phoenix Fairy landed beside Lin Feng. 100 Flower Fairy said, "I did not expect Lin Gongzi to pass through the trial so quickly. Lin Gongzi's methods are really amazing. This little girl admires him greatly." In fact, 100 Flower Fairy was also very puzzled. She knew how dangerous the trial was, and did not know how Lin Feng passed through it. Logically speaking, Lin Feng should not have been able to successfully pass through the trial, but thinking about how Lin Feng was indeed different from others, and how he had many extraordinary methods, Lin Feng finally passed through the trial. It did not seem to be too difficult to understand. Lin Feng said, "This journey was really hard to explain, but fortunately, I successfully passed through the trial." After Lin Feng's voice fell, a few more cultivators passed through the distorted space and entered the depths of this space. The greatest danger of the trial was the terrifying existence Lin Feng released. Because it was released by Lin Feng, it did not target other cultivators, so the danger of the trial was naturally eliminated, and then the cultivators who did not encounter a calamity successfully passed through the trial. In fact, a few of them were a little puzzled. Didn't they say that the trial was very difficult to pass? Why did they not encounter any special difficulties along the way? Could it be that because his methods were too powerful, he was able to pass the trial so easily? Thinking of this, some people could not help but feel complacent if they knew the whole story. At that time, who knows what kind of mood they would have? Including Lin Feng, there were a total of 6 people who passed through the trial. Among them was a female cultivator. This female cultivator looked a little similar to the female cultivator who died before. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a little moved. Could it be that this female cultivator and the female cultivator who died were related by blood? Otherwise, why do the 2 of them look so similar? Maybe they are a pair of beautiful sisters? It was a pity that one of them had already died tragically on the road of trials. Congratulations to everyone for passing through the trial, 100 Flower Fairy said with a smile after seeing these cultivators. Several cultivators politely exchanged a few words with 100 Flower Fairy. Then the female cultivator asked, "Has anyone seen this concubine's younger sister?" Obviously, these people should know this female cultivator. Even if they did not know her, they had seen the two sisters before, and the two of them looked so similar, they could probably guess their specific identity. So when this female cultivator asked if they had seen her younger sister, they all thought of another female cultivator. That female cultivator was definitely a beautiful young married woman, a pair of beautiful sisters. If they could have a romantic relationship with this pair of beautiful sisters, it would definitely be unforgettable for the rest of their lives, right? Everyone else shook their heads. They had not seen her younger sister before. Said Lin Feng. I've seen her, but she died on the path of the exam, said Lin Feng. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the beautiful woman suddenly showed an extremely sad expression. Then she asked about some of the things that happened at that time. Lin Feng told the beautiful woman everything that happened at that time. In fact, the beautiful woman had seen the tragic deaths of several cultivators before, but at that time she hid and did not come out. The way they died was very similar to how Lin Feng described her younger sister's death. The beautiful woman sighed, her expression sorrowful. But the world of cultivators was this cruel, accompanied by the danger of death at every moment. Since she had embarked on this path, there was no turning back. So after being sad for a while, her mood had calmed down a lot. 100 Flower Fairy asked, Everyone, what do you want? A cultivator said, I heard that the White Immortal Valley has endless mysterious techniques and many immortal scriptures. I want to obtain a top-notch inheritance. A second cultivator said, I heard that the White Immortal Valley has top-notch magic treasures passed down from the previous era. I want to obtain a top-notch magic treasure. A female cultivator said, I heard that the White Immortal Valley has a rainbow-colored immortal robe, an extremely powerful defensive immortal robe. I want to obtain one of those robes. A fourth cultivator said, I want to obtain a true immortal pill, then use that pill to break through to the true immortal realm. A fifth cultivator said, I heard that the master of the White Immortal Valley has the Nirvana technique. I want to obtain the cultivation method of the Nirvana technique. End of chapter. Chapter 56-36. The thing Lin Gongzi wants is the star route map that Lin Gongzi mentioned before, right? 100 Flower Fairy looked at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng nodded and said, That's right, what I want is that star route map. Can Fairy help me get it? Lin Feng's face was full of smiles. In fact, Lin Feng knew that there was something fishy going on, but he still didn't know who 100 Flower Fairy was. If he fell out with 100 Flower Fairy now, and if she still had some tricks up her sleeve, 100 Flower Fairy might be able to escape. That was why Lin Feng didn't expose 100 Flower Fairy directly. He planned to play with 100 Flower Fairy slowly. Obviously, 100 Flower Fairy didn't know that Lin Feng already knew a lot of things, and thought that everything was still within her calculations. I'm not sure if Sir can get the star route map, because I need to ask the master of White Immortal Valley first, 100 Flower Fairy said. So that's how it is. Then I'll wait for your news. Lin Feng said. You're welcome, sir, 100 Flower Fairy said. After a pause, she continued, I'll take you to rest first. Thank you, Fairy. Everyone thanked 100 Flower Fairy. Then, 100 Flower Fairy and Fairy Phoenix Fairy led Lin Feng and the others to rest. When they passed by a mountain range, they saw many tombs, but there were no names on the tombs, so no one knew who was buried under the tombs. A cultivator asked curiously, Fairy, can I ask a question? 100 Flower Fairy smiled and said, Of course. Then, the cultivator asked, Who are the people buried in the tombs? Hearing this question, 100 Flower Fairy sighed and said, I'm sure everyone has heard that the master of White Immortal Valley would take in a disciple every once in a while. The people buried under the tombs were the disciples of the master of White Immortal Valley. Perhaps because she was too sad, she didn't write down the names of her disciples. So that's how it is. Everyone nodded. 100 Flower Fairy and Fairy Phoenix Fairy led Lin Feng and the others to a courtyard, then arranged for Lin Feng and the others to rest in the courtyard for Lin Feng and the others. Then, 100 Flower Fairy and Fairy Phoenix Fairy left and went to another place shrouded in white fog. There was a very powerful restriction there, and if they didn't bring the others in, they wouldn't be able to enter. The place was very powerful. The restriction here was extremely terrifying. It was unknown whether it was a natural restriction or a restriction set up by someone. Lin Feng felt that this place had many natural restrictions to begin with. Later, Powerful cultivators added some new restrictions on top of the natural restrictions. After the natural restrictions and the new restrictions merged into one, the two restrictions became one. Once the restrictions had completed their transformation, the power of the restrictions had increased substantially. This was the reason why the stone scripture couldn't break through the restrictions. Of course, Lin Feng might have guessed wrong. After all, the restrictions were too ancient, and there were many things that couldn't be investigated. At night, Lin Feng suddenly heard a knock on his door. Lin Feng went to the door and opened it. Then, he saw the beautiful woman standing outside. Lin Feng asked curiously, "Fairy, it's already so late. Why aren't you resting?" "I have some questions about my younger sister that I would like to ask you. Is it convenient for me to enter now?" As the saying goes, a straight foot is not afraid of a crooked shadow. Since the woman didn't mind, Lin Feng naturally wouldn't mind. "Fairy, please come in." After the woman entered the room, Lin Feng closed the door and invited the woman to sit. Lin Feng then invited the woman to take a seat. "I'll pour you a cup of tea," Lin Feng said. The woman replied, "Thank you, young master." Lin Feng poured a cup of tea for the woman, but she didn't drink it. The woman revealed a sorrowful expression and asked, "Young master, did my sister leave behind any special words before she died?" Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Could it be that the woman had some secrets that he wanted to pass on to this woman? However, it was true that her sister didn't say anything. Everything had happened too suddenly, and even if she wanted to say something, it was too late. Thus, the woman didn't say anything before she died. Lin Feng said her death was very sudden, so she didn't say anything. The woman's face was covered in tears, and she looked very sad. The death of a loved one was indeed a very sad thing. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh, not knowing how to console the woman. This kind of thing wasn't easy. After all, anyone who encountered something like this would feel extremely sad. Lin Feng stretched out his hand, wanting to pat the woman's shoulder and comfort her. However, he pulled his hand back in the end. The woman threw herself into Lin Feng's embrace and hugged Lin Feng with both hands. Her beautiful face pressed against Lin Feng's chest as she sobbed. She said, "I just want to find a hug to lean on. I hope young master doesn't mind." Lin Feng nodded. The woman continued to cry as she said, "My sister and I have relied on each other for survival since we were young. Who would have thought that we would be separated forever? From now on, I will be alone, and I no longer have any relatives." Lin Feng said, "Please restrain your grief." The woman didn't say anything else, and she continued to cry. Suddenly, after crying for a while, a fierce look appeared in her eyes. She hugged Lin Feng's right hand and viciously pressed down on Lin Feng's spine. However, at that moment, Lin Feng suddenly pushed the woman away. Thus, the woman's sneak attack failed. Lin Feng sneered, "What are you doing? I have no enmity with you, so why did you sneak attack me?" The beautiful woman said coldly, "It was you. You must have killed my little sister. You must have seen how pretty my little sister was and had some improper thoughts about her, so you killed her. I'll kill you to take revenge for my little sister." After saying that, the woman formed a restriction and sealed the room. Then, she quickly attacked Lin Feng. She sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng. "Fuck, she's a crazy woman." Lin Feng couldn't help but curse when he saw the woman attacking him. Chapter 56:37. It was no wonder that Lin Feng would be so depressed. This woman was simply too crazy. Originally, this matter had nothing to do with Lin Feng. He had told her about her sister out of kindness. However, he had not expected this woman to suspect that he was the one who had done something to her sister. She was definitely a persecuted paranoia patient. Wasn't this way of thinking a little too weird? How could he face this woman's attack? Lin Feng waved his robes, and a powerful force surged out, sending the woman flying. Even though her cultivation was relatively strong, compared to Lin Feng, there was still a huge gap. Lin Feng said coldly, "I won't lower myself to your level on account of your sister's death. Don't be unreasonable. If you continue to be unreasonable, yours truly will make you pay a heavy price today." The woman said, "You've finally revealed your true colors. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll kill you to avenge my sister." As soon as she finished speaking, said the woman, summoning many poisonous insects. Those poisonous insects flew towards Lin Feng. Those poisonous insects were extremely poisonous. If Lin Feng was surrounded by them, he would be in great danger. Lin Feng looked at the woman coldly. He cursed again. What a crazy woman! He then waved his hand. The heavenly flame immediately flew out and burned fiercely. When those poisonous insects flew over, they were all burned to ashes by the heavenly flame. Lin Feng's body flashed, and he appeared in front of the woman in an instant. He then tapped her lightly, and her body froze. She could not move at all. "Since I can't kill you, you can kill me," the woman said coldly. "Do you think I'll let you off so easily?" Lin Feng pinched her snow-white chin gently. The woman looked at Lin Feng with a look of fear. Seeing that, Lin Feng was secretly delighted. Lin Feng wanted to scare this crazy woman. This crazy woman. She probably thought that he would do something heartless to her, right? Seeing the woman's look of fear, Lin Feng felt extremely satisfied. "What are you doing? You can't touch me. I'd rather die than let you ruin my body," the woman said in fear. "Ha ha ha ha." Lin Feng laughed out loud. He did not continue to tease her. Instead, he lay on his bed and turned off the lights. The night passed quickly. When Lin Feng woke up the next day, he found the woman glaring at him. Since Lin Feng had restrained her body, she could not move. She stood there for the whole night and listened to Lin Feng's breathing for the whole night. This made her very depressed. A delicate beauty like her had stood there for the whole night while Lin Feng slept comfortably. Now, she wanted nothing more than to strangle Lin Feng to death. Lin Feng looked at her and said, "Although there is a saying that a woman with big breasts is brainless, you don't look like that kind of woman. Why do you think I'm the one who did this to your sister?" The woman said, "Because my sister has an extremely rare Dao integration physique. Once a cultivator achieves Dao integration with my sister, their cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds. You've met my sister before, so it's very normal for you to attack her." Lin Feng was slightly taken aback. The beautiful woman's words actually made some sense. Once a top-grade cultivation vessel like her was encountered by someone, especially when she was alone, it was very easy for others to attack her. This kind of thing was very common in the world of cultivators. Lin Feng was the last man to come in contact with her sister, so it was not strange for her to suspect Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng's thoughts were all focused on finding that terrifying existence in the dark. He did not observe what kind of physique his sister had. Lin Feng said, "I didn't know that your sister had a Dao integration physique because we didn't even talk much before she died. Everything I said is true. Whether you believe it or not, that's all I have to say." The beautiful woman replied, "I believe you," said Lin Feng while looking at the beautiful woman. He was astonished. The woman said, "Because I stood here all night and you didn't do anything to me. This proves that you're a gentleman." Lin Feng smiled bitterly. This woman's way of thinking was indeed a bit strange. Lin Feng released her restriction and said, "You can leave now." The woman nodded and opened the door to Lin Feng's room and walked outside. When the beautiful woman came out, two cultivators were whispering to each other in the courtyard outside. Seeing the woman come out of Lin Feng's room early in the morning, the two cultivators revealed an extremely ambiguous look. Obviously, the two cultivators thought that Lin Feng and the woman must have spent the night together. At this time, Lin Feng walked out of his room. The two cultivators looked at Lin Feng with envy and jealousy. In the afternoon, 100 Flower Fairy and Fairy Phoenix Fairy came to Lin Feng's place. 100 Flower Fairy smiled and asked, "Did everyone rest well?" "We rested quite well," everyone replied. Only the woman didn't say anything. Instead, she glared fiercely at Lin Feng. Obviously, she was very angry that Lin Feng didn't have any protective feelings for the fair sex last night. Flower Fairy then said, "I have already reported to the Master of White Immortal Valley about the things that everyone wants. However, I do not dare to guarantee that you will be able to obtain them because the Master of White Immortal Valley intends to conduct a face-to-face test on you. When the time comes, they'll probably ask you some questions. I don't know what they'll ask, but if the Master of White Immortal Valley is satisfied with your answers, they'll probably satisfy your conditions. Now, come with me," said the Master of White Immortal Valley. After hearing 100 Flower Fairy's words, everyone quickly nodded. However, they couldn't help but feel nervous. What kind of questions would the master of White Immortal Valley ask? Among these people, only Lin Feng sneered because Lin Feng knew that the master of White Immortal Valley had most likely fallen. Even if he didn't fall, he must have fallen into a deep sleep. Therefore, how could the master of White Immortal Valley ask them some questions face to face? Chapter 56:38. Lin Feng guessed that 100-Flower Fairy had already made her move, and this time, she was only here to find an excuse to trick everyone. Lin Feng's heart was as clear as a mirror, but he didn't say anything and continued to cooperate with 100-Flower Fairy. Under the lead of 100-Flower Fairy and Phoenix Fairy, they arrived at the area shrouded in white fog. Then, Lin Feng's group of 6 followed 100-Flower Fairy and Phoenix Fairy into the area shrouded in white fog. Soon, they reached the depths of the white fog. At this time, 100-Flower Fairy and Phoenix Fairy suddenly sped up and rushed forward, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Chase them! The others felt that something was wrong and quickly chased after them. However, Bai Hua Fairy and Feng Xian Fairy had already disappeared. As for them, they were trapped here. Many terrifying restrictions appeared around them. These restrictions completely sealed off the area. It had become impossible to get out of here. Therefore, the group of people's expressions were extremely ugly. A cultivator said with a gloomy expression, 100-Flower Fairy, "What do you mean by this? Why are we trapped here?" 100-Flower Fairy said, "If you want to blame someone, blame yourselves for being greedy and being easily tricked by me. This time, to awaken the master of White Immortal Valley who has been sleeping for a long time, we need the blood of many powerful cultivators as a sacrifice, and you people are the last batch of sacrifices." After hearing 100-Flower Fairy's words, everyone's expression suddenly changed. It was obvious that they had been tricked by 100-Flower Fairy. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. It seemed that 100-Flower Fairy didn't only want to trick him, but also these people. This was something that Lin Feng didn't expect before. And from 100-Flower Fairy's words, he could confirm that the master of White Immortal Valley was asleep and not dead. However, it required a sacrifice to awaken the master of White Immortal Valley. This method was extremely evil and vicious. 100-Flower Fairy, you dare to trick us like this. You will die a horrible death. 100-Flower Fairy, we will not rest until you die. Fairy of 100 flowers, you bitch, I'll kill you. Fairy of 100 flowers, I will tear you to pieces. 100 Flowers Fairy, your fate will be 10 times worse than mine. The cultivators cursed loudly. They knew that they were tricked by 100-Flower Fairy. Naturally, they were furious and wanted nothing more than to tear 100-Flower Fairy into 1,000 pieces and cut her into 1,000 pieces. Flower Fairy said, "Right now, I only need 4 spots to gather enough offerings, so 2 of you won't have to die. Also, let me tell you, this Lin Feng will definitely die. He has great enmity with me, so I will definitely kill him. You can be the first to kill him, and after you kill him, there will be 1 less spot to compete with you. In that case, if 3 of you die, the remaining 2 will be able to survive," said Lin Feng. Hearing 100-Flower Fairy's words, their expressions darkened. They looked at Lin Feng with a cold glint in their eyes, which made their hair stand on end. Lin Feng couldn't help but sneer. Although their cultivations were not bad, in Lin Feng's eyes, they were just a bunch of mobs. 100-Flower Fairy wanted to use these people to deal with him. It was simply a fool's dream. Lin Feng looked at 100-Flower Fairy and said, "I have no enmity with you, and we have never met before. Why would you scheme against me?" 100-Flower Fairy said coldly, "100-Flower Fairy is just a title. It's not my real name. Do you know what my real name is?" "I really don't know." Lin Feng raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's your real name?" 100-Flower Fairy said, "My real name is Huangfu Xiener." When Lin Feng heard the name of the celestial lady of 100 flowers, he was astonished. He had been thinking for a long time, but he hadn't thought that the celestial lady of 100 flowers was Huangfu Xiener. Lin Feng was astonished. Previously, Lin Feng had learned from Zero that Huangfu Xiener had disappeared without a trace. No one knew where she had gone. Later, due to the great battle in the Undying Realm, Huang Fu Xian'er's ascension immortal sect was destroyed. Huang Fu Xian'er was even less likely to appear. Therefore, Huang Fu Xian'er had completely disappeared. It turned out that this woman had been hiding in the dark and had been keeping track of his whereabouts. Then, she planned step by step to scheme against him. If it was someone else, perhaps they would have already been killed by Huang Fu Xian'er's scheme. However, Huang Fu Xian'er might not have thought that his means would be so powerful. Lin Feng said coldly, "So you're here to avenge Huang Fu Qingtian?" "That's right. You killed Tianer, so I'll cut you into 1,000 pieces. I'll send your soul to the 18th layer of hell so that you'll never be reincarnated." Huang Fu Xian'er glared at Lin Feng hatefully. Lin Feng said, "I heard that Huang Fu Qingtian was the child of your Heaven-Man connection. Why don't you tell us what happened back then? I'm very interested in this Heaven-Man connection." Huang Fu Xian'er was slightly stunned when she heard Lin Feng's words. She had expected Lin Feng to react in all kinds of ways, but she didn't expect Lin Feng to ask her about the Heaven-Man connection. Naturally, it was difficult to talk about it. Huang Fu Xian'er couldn't help but blush. Then, anger appeared on her face. She said coldly, "You're about to die, yet you're still spouting such filthy words. You're simply courting death." Huang Fu Xian'er then looked at the other 5 and said, "What are the 5 of you waiting for? Hurry up and kill Lin Feng." The 5 of them looked at each other and surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng sneered. If these people wanted to court death, he didn't mind sending them to hell. Chapter 56:39. Lin Feng was now a decisive killer, who knew how many people he had killed over the years. Adding a few more lives to his list was naturally not a big deal. Just as the two sides were about to attack, suddenly, the beautiful woman ambushed a cultivator next to her. With a wave of her sleeve, a green bamboo leaf snake flew out. The green bamboo leaf snake opened its mouth and bit the cultivator's neck. The poison entered the cultivator's body from the wound, and the cultivator immediately died from the poison. The green bamboo snake's poison was simply too horrifying. Even such a powerful cultivator would find it hard to endure. It was a hair-raising experience. Seeing the beautiful woman kill off one of the cultivators with a sneak attack, the faces of the other 3 cultivators turned extremely ugly to behold. They pulled away from the beautiful woman and coldly looked at her. One of the cultivators coldly said, "What are you doing?" The beautiful woman came to Lin Feng's side and said, "Can't you see what I'm doing? I'm with him." Lin Feng looked at the beautiful woman with interest. It seemed that she had made the right choice. The other 3 cultivators' expressions became even uglier. One of the cultivators said, "I already knew that you had an affair with this brat, but what kind of man can't you find? If you want to find a man, you can find one 10 times better than this brat. There's no need to fight to the death with us because of this brat. Besides, this brat is dead for sure, because Flower Fairy won't let him go. That's why you have to think twice before you act. Don't do anything that will make you regret it." The beautiful woman coldly said, "What's the point of talking so much nonsense? Let's see who's the real deal." Seeing that the beautiful woman was determined to join forces with Lin Feng to deal with the 3 of them, the other 3 cultivators' eyes suddenly burst out with killing intent. At this time, Flower Fairy said mockingly, "Lin Feng, I knew you were a romantic person, but I didn't expect you to hook up with this girl after knowing her for such a short time. I'm very puzzled. How could someone like you have such great achievements in cultivation?" In fact, the beautiful woman's words were not without reason. This was because many male cultivators who were lustful towards women would gradually lose interest in cultivation after indulging themselves in women's charms. The saying that a woman's home was a hero's grave was very reasonable. However, Lin Feng liked women. However, Lin Feng did not indulge in women's charms. This was the biggest difference between Lin Feng and other people, because Lin Feng knew what his life goal was. He also knew what his responsibility was. So what if he had more women? As long as one's Dao heart remained unchanged, one's cultivation speed would naturally increase. Lin Feng said, "Huang Fu Xian'er, this young master's ability is not something you can guess." After pausing for a moment, Lin Feng revealed a brilliant smile and said, "I'm very interested in taking you as my slave. I plan to take you as my slave. If you know what's good for you, take the initiative to acknowledge me as your master. When the time comes, I might be gentler to you. If you don't know what's good for you, just wait and see how I'll deal with you when the time comes." When she heard Lin Feng's words, Huang Fuxian's pretty face turned ashen, and her gaze turned cold. Fairy Phoenix Fairy said coldly, "It's hard to imagine how someone like you could do so many shocking things." Lin Feng looked at Fairy Phoenix Fairy and said, "Sometimes, you can't judge a person by their appearance. I have many good points. After I take you as my slave, you'll know what my good points are." "Take me as your slave? In your next life?" Fairy Phoenix Fairy sneered, then looked at Huang Fuxian and said, "Sister, hurry up and urge them to kill Lin Feng." Huang Fuxian looked at the other three cultivators and said, "What are you waiting for?" The three cultivators looked at each other, then pounced at Lin Feng and the beautiful woman. Lin Feng's face was full of a sneer. He raised his right hand and lightly waved it in the air, sending out a ray of sword chi. The sword chi quickly slashed at the three cultivators. The three cultivators wanted to dodge, but they weren't able to. With a ripping sound, the three cultivators' heads were lopped off by Lin Feng's sword energy. "Amazing, amazing, really amazing." Huang Fuxian sighed. Lin Feng said, "You clearly know that these people can't pose any threat to me. So why did you let them attack me?" Huang Fuxian said, "Because I find them very annoying, and if I kill them myself, it would dirty my hands. So I'll borrow your hands to kill them." Lin Feng said, "I have to say that you're really a vicious and merciless woman." Huang Fuxian said, "Then I should thank you for your praise." Following which, Huang Fuxian struck out a series of mysterious hand seals that fused into the surrounding restrictions. Next, those seals shook and released extremely terrifying fluctuations. One seal after another was activated. The seals in this place were extremely terrifying. Lin Feng was very clear about this. When Lin Feng felt the terrifying fluctuations from the restrictions, his expression changed slightly. Lin Feng felt that the restrictions here were much more terrifying than the ones outside. Lin Feng didn't dare to be careless and summoned the stone scripture. Lin Feng activated the stone scripture. Rays of holy light surged out from the stone scripture. The holy light wrapped around Lin Feng and the beautiful woman, forming a defensive barrier. When the densely packed attacks arrived, they were all blocked by the defensive light shield. Huang Fuxian sneered, "Lin Feng, I know that you have many tricks up your sleeves, and you even have the stone scripture of the heavenly masters. But it's useless because the master of the White Immortal Valley has spent her entire life researching ways to break the inheritance of the heavenly masters. The restriction formations created by the master of the White Immortal Valley can restrain the restriction formations of the heavenly masters." Lin Feng was astonished by Huang Fuxian's words. He asked, "Could it be that the master of the White Immortal Valley has some deep enmity with the ancestors of the heavenly masters? Otherwise, why would she research ways to deal with the heavenly masters?" Huang Fuxian sneered, "If you want to know, go to hell and ask King Yama." As soon as she finished speaking, Huang Fuxian continued to activate the restrictions here, and the power of the restrictions suddenly increased by more than 10 times. An even more terrifying attack blasted towards Lin Feng. Chapter 5640. After Huang Fuxian increased the power of the seals, Lin Feng naturally became more cautious. After all, the seals here were indeed very powerful. Lin Feng continued to activate the stone scripture, and the power of the scripture increased as well. When the attacks from the seals once again bombarded the defensive light barrier, a series of banging sounds came from the defensive light barrier, and the defensive light barrier shook violently. It seemed that the attacks from the seals could indeed cause a huge impact on the defensive light barrier formed by the stone scripture. If this continued, it would be extremely disadvantageous for Lin Feng and the others. Lin Feng was also aware of this. In fact, Huang Fuxian and Fairy Fengxian didn't pose much of a threat to Lin Feng. The main reason was that the seals here posed a greater threat to Lin Feng. Just as Huang Fuxian had said before, the master of White Immortal Valley had spent his entire life researching methods to restrain the seals of the heavenly master lineage, and the results were extremely significant. The stone scripture was a top-grade treasure passed down by the heavenly master lineage, and many of the techniques of the heavenly master lineage required the help of the stone scripture. As a result, All kinds of techniques would be easily suppressed by the seals. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. If this continued, it would be extremely disadvantageous for him. Therefore, he had to find a way to resolve the crisis before him. Lin Feng took out 5 ancient weapon-grade magic treasures, and the 5 magic treasures flew out rapidly, shaking with world-destroying fluctuations. The 5 magic treasures bombarded the seals around them, and along with the sounds of violent collisions, cracks appeared on many of the seals. Ancient weapon-grade magic treasures were indeed powerful, and the power they displayed was truly terrifying. Lin Feng's face revealed a trace of a smile. It seemed that using ancient weapon-grade magic treasures could really break the seals here. The main reason was that the seals had already weakened greatly compared to their peak state, and could no longer reach their peak state. If they were still at their peak state, it would obviously be more difficult to break these seals. When Fairy Fengxian saw the seals start to crack, her expression changed abruptly. She looked to Huang Fuxian and asked, "Big sister, what do we do now?" Huang Fuxian replied, "Don't worry, this situation is within my expectations." Huang Fuxian took out a command token. It was a white jade command token. There seemed to be many mysterious patterns on the white jade command token, but what was so special about those patterns? Lin Feng didn't know either. Lin Feng hadn't seen this kind of white jade token before, so he didn't know what was so special about it. However, Lin Feng felt that the white jade token was very likely related to the White Immortal Valley. After the white jade token was activated, a wave of destructive energy surged out from the white jade token. The white jade token suddenly shone with a dazzling light that flew in all directions of the White Immortal Valley. Then, the light merged with the White Immortal Valley. When the light completely merged with the White Immortal Valley, all the seals in the White Immortal Valley were awakened. The White Immortal Valley even shook violently, as if an earthquake had occurred. The beautiful woman's expression changed, and she asked, "What's going on?" Lin Feng said, "She should have used the power of all the seals here, and even the energy that the White Immortal Valley has stored for countless years. She wants to use it to kill us." After hearing Lin Feng's words, the beautiful woman's face paled. The White Immortal Valley was too terrifying. With so many terrifying powers, it was too difficult to resist. At that moment, all kinds of attacks came at them, and Lin Feng's 5 ancient weapons were sent flying. Huang Fuxian said coldly, "The energy that the White Immortal Valley has stored for countless years is absolutely unimaginable. After adding the power of all the seals here, even I don't know how powerful the attack will be. This is also the first time I've used such a powerful attack. Lin Feng, even if you have extraordinary abilities, you won't be able to escape today." It seemed that Huang Fuxian was very confident in her methods. Lin Feng sneered and said, "Huang Fuxian I know that you're very strong, but there's one thing you didn't think of." "What is it?" Huang Fuxian asked doubtfully. "You underestimate my ability. After killing the Heavenly Emperor, my cultivation increased greatly, and I even fused with the undying world. Now that I've completed my transformation, the power I have is not something you can imagine." After saying that, Lin Feng started chanting the incantation for the Great Fate technique. After Lin Feng broke through to the Golden Immortal Realm, the power of the Great Fate technique was even more terrifying. When the incantation of the Great Fate art fell, a powerful fate force descended from the sky and fused with many restrictions. At the same time, Lin Feng continued to use the stone scripture and the Great Fate technique to deal with the seals here. Those seals were completely suppressed by the Great Fate technique and the stone scripture. They could no longer pose any threat to Lin Feng. Now, the only thing Lin Feng had to face was the boundless and powerful energy of the White Immortal Valley. Lin Feng took out his ruler's armor and phoenix shield. He held the phoenix shield and wore the ruler's armor. When the terrifying energy attacks came, they were all blocked by Lin Feng's ruler's armor and phoenix shield. The combined power of these 2 magic treasures was really terrifying. Lin Feng quickly moved towards Fairy Fengxian and Fairy Bai Hua. He wanted to oppress them. Then he would turn them into his slaves. 100 Flower Fairy's expression became unsightly. She hurriedly waved the white jade token in her hand. A white light surged out and enveloped Fairy Phoenix Fairy and Fairy Phoenix Fairy, following which, Fairy Phoenix Fairy and Fairy Phoenix Fairy disappeared without a trace. Where did they run off to? Lin Feng's expression became unsightly. At this time, a distorted darkness appeared behind Lin Feng. The terrifying existence in the darkness appeared, and his deep voice came out. I know where these two women ran off to. They must have run to the place where that bitch is sleeping. Follow me. I'll take you to find them. That terrifying cultivator was leading the way. Lin Feng and the beautiful woman were following closely behind him. They were moving at full speed. Chapter 56-41. Under the guidance of this terrifying existence, Lin Feng and the beautiful woman quickly arrived at the deepest part of the formation. There was a huge innate 8 trigrams formation there. This innate 8 trigrams formation was very complicated. Lin Feng carefully studied it and found that this heavenly 8 trigrams formation was formed by 8 small innate 8 trigrams. These 8 small innate 8 trigrams formations formed a very mysterious connection with each other. Therefore, it was very difficult to pass through. The terrifying existence said, this innate 8 trigrams formation is blocking the way, so we can't pass through. Perhaps you can use your stone scripture to try, and see if it can resolve the 8 trigrams formation here. Lin Feng could not help but nod. He summoned the stone scripture and tried to use it to break through the 8 trigrams formation here. However, Lin Feng found that the stone scripture was unable to do so. It had to be said that the master of the White Immortal Valley was truly a genius to be able to research such a powerful 8 trigrams formation. Lin Feng became more and more curious. He did not know what kind of enmity this person had with the ancestor of the Celestial Master bloodline to make her hate the Celestial Master bloodline so much. In the next few days, Lin Feng had been studying the 8 trigrams formation here. Although it was very complicated, Lin Feng's attainments and formations were still very high. With the help of the stone scripture, although Lin Feng did not find a way to break through the 8 trigrams formation here, he found a way to pass through the 8 trigrams formation here. However, passing through the 8 trigrams formation here was obviously very dangerous. Lin Feng looked at the beautiful woman and said, "Wait outside." The beautiful woman also knew that passing through the 8 trigrams formation here was too dangerous. Therefore, she did not insist on entering with Lin Feng. The beautiful woman said, "Be careful." Lin Feng nodded and then brought this fellow into the 8 trigrams formation. All kinds of attacks bombarded Lin Feng and this terrifying existence. Lin Feng brought this terrifying existence and quickly shuttled through the 8 trigrams formation. Some of the attacks were dodged by them. Lin Feng used the stone scripture to block the attacks that he could not dodge. As a result, he was able to pass through the extremely complicated 8 trigrams formation without any danger. After passing through the 8 trigrams formation, Lin Feng and this terrifying existence heaved a sigh of relief. Earlier, when they were inside the 8 trigrams formation, they were truly on tenterhooks because the formation was too powerful. A moment of carelessness would have resulted in death. Fortunately, the result was not bad. What appeared before them was a huge valley. The two of them walked into the valley. There was a cave in the depths of the valley. After seeing the cave, the terrifying being said, that cave used to be the place where the master of the White Immortal Valley cultivated. It's the core of this place. If you go in, you should be able to find the master of the White Immortal Valley and the two women. Lin Feng nodded and walked into the cave with this terrifying existence. When they arrived at the cave, they saw that there was a crystal coffin inside the cave. A woman was lying inside the crystal coffin. The woman's clothes were as white as snow, and she looked quite beautiful. She was in her 30s. In front of the crystal coffin was a small altar, and Fairy Fengxian was standing next to it, looking at it. Huang Fuxian was conducting a sacrificial ceremony. It seemed that Huang Fuxian wanted to use the sacrificial ceremony to awaken the master of the White Immortal Valley. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't let Huang Fuxian do as she wished. Therefore, Lin Feng quickly rushed towards Huang Fuxian. Huang Fuxian's expression suddenly changed. She didn't expect Lin Feng to arrive at this place so quickly. Huang Fuxian quickly took out the white jade token. The white jade token quickly grew in size. Then, it formed a huge barrier, separating her from Lin Feng. Lin Feng took out the Panga heaven-splitting axe. He held the heaven-splitting axe in his hand and attacked the enlarged white jade token. Dozens of attacks bombarded the white jade token. The enlarged white jade token was blasted away. Huang Fuxian suffered a backlash and couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Lin Feng quickly flew towards Huang Fuxian. He wanted to seize this rare opportunity to suppress Huang Fuxian. But at this time, Fairy Fengxian rushed towards Lin Feng, wanting to intercept Lin Feng. Lin Feng waved his sleeve and sent Fairy Fengxian flying. Then, Lin Feng arrived beside Huang Fuxian and exchanged a palm with her. Huang Fuxian was immediately sent flying by Lin Feng. All the magic power in her body was scattered, and Huang Fuxian no longer had the strength to fight. Lin Feng coldly looked at Huang Fuxian and said, "Now that everything is over, obediently tell me the starry sky route to the buried god star field. This is your only choice." Huang Fuxian coldly said, "You want this starry sky route? That's simply a fool's dream. Even if I bring this starry sky route to hell, I will not tell you." As her voice fell, Huang Fuxian slapped her own forehead. This woman actually had an unyielding character. She knew that today, she would definitely be captured by Lin Feng. At that time, she would become Lin Feng's female slave. At that time, who knew what would happen? So, Huang Fuxian chose the most extreme method. Seeing that Huang Fuxian's palm was about to land on her forehead, Lin Feng flicked his finger. A powerful force imprisoned Huang Fuxian's body. Huang Fuxian immediately couldn't move. Huang Fuxian's face turned extremely pale. She wanted to commit suicide, but she couldn't. Huang Fuxian couldn't help but feel sad. She originally thought that this plan was perfect and would definitely be able to kill Lin Feng. But she didn't expect that this seemingly perfect plan would actually have so many flaws. Lin Feng was completely fine, and instead, she had become Lin Feng's prisoner. Chapter 56-42. Lin Feng looked coldly at Huang Fuxian and said, "You haven't even told me what I want to know, yet you want to die. Do you think that's possible? You're still very valuable to me. You can choose not to tell me, but I have 100 ways to make you talk on your own." Huang Fuxian's face was pale, but she kept her mouth shut. She only looked coldly at Lin Feng. Fairy Fengxian said, "Lin Feng, no matter what, you're still a great hero that countless people admire. How can you bully two little women like us?" Lin Feng was speechless after hearing Fairy Fengxian's words. He sneered at Fairy Fengxian and said, "Why didn't you call yourself little women when you were scheming against me? Also, don't flatter me. I'm not a great hero. I'm just an ordinary person who wants to live on and protect my family, relatives, lovers, and friends. When you opposed me, you should have expected this to happen. That's why I won't be merciful to you." Fairy Fengxian's face turned pale after hearing Lin Feng's words. Fairy Fengxian's face turned extremely pale. She said, "My father is the planet lord of this planet. If you try to harm me and my father finds out, you won't have a good ending." Lin Feng sneered, "I can even kill the Celestial Emperor. Do you think I'll be afraid of your father? If your father dares to come looking for me, I'll send him to the 18th level of hell and make sure he'll never be reincarnated." Fairy Fengxian said, "You were able to kill the Celestial Sovereign because many of you joined hands to deal with him. As for my father, he is an expert that has existed since the immemorial era. How are you going to deal with him by yourself?" Lin Feng smiled icily. "Back then, we joined hands and killed Tian Di, the Celestial Emperor. Now, I'm completely different from back then. I'm much stronger than back then. If I fought against Tian Di, the Celestial Emperor now, I'm convinced I could defeat him alone," said Lin Feng icily. Fairy Fengxian couldn't help but sigh. She knew that the situation was hopeless, and there was no turning back now. She had become Lin Feng's prisoner. Before taking action, Fairy Fengxian had thought that this might happen. However, when it really happened, she couldn't help but feel sad. However, she didn't regret attacking Lin Feng because Lin Feng was Huang Fuxian's enemy. Lin Feng was Huang Fuxian's enemy. That meant that he was her enemy. At that moment, Lin Feng suddenly sensed a terrifying aura behind him. Lin Feng turned around and saw that the woman lying in the crystal coffin was sitting up. She looked coldly at Lin Feng. "She's awake. She's awake." The guy next to Lin Feng shouted in fear. Clearly, this terrifying existence still remembered many things that had happened in the past, especially the time when he was tortured by the woman. It was so painful that he wished he was dead. When he saw that the woman had woken up, he was extremely nervous. However, when he thought about how long she had been sleeping, her cultivation must have declined greatly. If he and Lin Feng worked together, they might not necessarily be her match. As for Huang Fuxian and Fairy Fengxian, they were extremely excited when they saw that the woman had woken up. Perhaps they saw a chance to turn the tables. Of course, Lin Feng knew what the two women were thinking. He just sneered. Lin Feng looked at the woman in the crystal coffin. The woman was floating in the air. She looked coldly at Lin Feng and said, "I really didn't expect that the successor of the Sage faction would appear here." The woman was extremely terrifying. She had spent her entire life researching ways to deal with the formations of the Sage faction, so it wasn't particularly surprising that she could recognize that he was from the Sage faction. Lin Feng said, "Who are you? Why have you spent your entire life researching ways to deal with the formations of the Sage faction?" The woman said coldly, "I hate the Sage faction. I'll kill all of you." As soon as she finished speaking, she flew towards Lin Feng. Then, she sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng. After sensing the terrifying power contained in the woman's attack, Lin Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. This woman was extremely powerful, as expected of an expert who had existed countless years ago. Although she had gone through a long period of slumber, which had caused her strength to drop, her strength was still extremely terrifying. Lin Feng even suspected that she was someone from the era of the first Sage faction. In the early days of this epoch, there was a high chance that she had already existed in the world. Perhaps she was even a sentient life form. It was simply unimaginable how powerful someone like her would be. Fortunately, her current strength was far from her peak. Otherwise, she would be too terrifying. Facing the woman's attack, Lin Feng put on his ruler's armor and wielded the phoenix shield in his left hand. His right hand struck out with the 6 paths of reincarnation. Their attacks collided fiercely, and a terrifying shockwave surged out. Then, the two sides unexpectedly formed a very strange stalemate. An extremely powerful chi field appeared around the two of them. The void violently distorted because of the chi field formed by the two sides. Seeing Lin Feng resist the attack of the master of the Valley of White Immortals, even Huang Fuxian showed an expression of disbelief. Because she had some relationship with the Valley of White Immortals, she knew the origin of the master of the Valley of White Immortals. It was precisely because he had some understanding of her background that he knew how terrifying this woman was. Lin Feng was just a young cultivator. He hadn't even practiced cultivation for 200 years. Surprisingly, he was able to block such a terrifying attack. It was hard to imagine how strong Lin Feng was. Huang Fuxian finally understood why Lin Feng had defeated Huang Fu Qingtian. He was the first inheritor of Pangu's Dao, and he was an extraordinary cultivator. Huang Fu Qingtian's defeat by Lin Feng seemed to have been predestined from the very beginning. Chapter 56-43. I didn't think that a young cultivator like you would appear in the Tianshi branch. You're not inferior to the earliest members of the Tianshi branch, said the woman. Lin Feng couldn't help but think that this woman was probably from the early days of the Tianshi era. Since she had spoken, it meant that things had taken a turn for the better. Lin Feng said, "What kind of hatred do you have against the Tianshi branch? I know that you won't tell me even if I ask you, but I can guess that this guy next to me is the result of the first ancestor of the Tianshi branch, Yushang's evil spirit. But you hate him so much. What does that mean?" "It means that you hate him very much. But why do you hate him so much? So much so that you tortured him for so many years instead of killing him. Obviously, the celestial master who has a grudge against you is the ancestor of the angel branch, Yushang. My guess is not without basis. Yushang was the creator of the Tianshi branch. He was unimaginably strong. Back then, the Dark Master of the universe and some other terrifying existences joined hands to deal with Yushang. That's enough to explain many things. As a woman, and a very beautiful woman at that. There are only two reasons why you hate Yushang so much. First, you and Yushang have a blood feud. However, I feel that this possibility is relatively small, because if it was really possible, you would have already killed this guy beside me a long time ago. Only then would you be able to resolve the hatred in your heart. You didn't kill him, which means that your hatred isn't as strong as a blood feud. If it's not the first reason, then it must be the second one. The second reason is that your hatred is born out of love. Shut up, said the woman icily when she heard Lin Feng. Lin Feng's attitude made Lin Feng furious. Lin Feng was even more certain that the woman's hatred towards Yushang was because of the second reason. Lin Feng smiled and said, "It seems that my guess is correct. You really hate Yushang because of your love. Why would you hate him because of your love? Did Yushang do something wrong to you? For example, abandoning you after having sex with you? Or maybe you love Yushang, but Yushang doesn't have any feelings for you. He doesn't like you, so you hate him. Or is there some other reason?" After hearing Lin Feng's words, the woman's face turned extremely pale. For a long time, no one had dared to be so presumptuous in front of her. Even if some of her disciples had guessed the reason, no one had dared to talk about it in front of her. But today, Lin Feng had dared to expose it all in front of her. Of course, it made her extremely angry. She looked at Lin Feng with a murderous intent. She said coldly, "Tian Shi's bloodline. I'll kill you today." Tian Shi's bloodline. As soon as he finished speaking, the woman attacked Lin Feng again. This time, she condensed an endless amount of death energy in her hand. When he sensed the death energy in her hand, Lin Feng's face changed slightly. This kind of chi was really terrifying. It was much more terrifying than the attacks she had condensed before. It seemed that the woman hadn't used her full strength before. Now that Lin Feng was here, she began to use her full strength. However, Lin Feng wasn't afraid of her. Facing her attack, Lin Feng directly used his Tao of Supremacy. He used his Supreme Reincarnation Fist. Lin Feng used his Supreme Reincarnation Fist. Then, he fiercely collided with the woman again. The shockwaves released by their attacks were as if they were going to destroy the world. It was really terrifying. Just when the two sides were in a deadlock, the terrifying existence beside Lin Feng started to attack the woman. Suddenly, an endless amount of darkness enveloped the woman's body. The terrifying existence laughed loudly. "You've been enveloped by my dark energy. You're already a turtle in a jar. You're at my mercy. I'll send you into the endless world of darkness. I'll bury you in the world of darkness so that you'll never be reincarnated." At this moment, all the hatred in his heart exploded out. After all, he had been tortured for such a long time. Naturally, his hatred for this woman could not be washed away even with all the water in the 5 lakes and 4 seas. However, dreams were beautiful, but reality was extremely cruel. How could it be so easy to kill this woman? It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. A kind of golden energy surged out of the woman's body. That kind of golden energy was extremely terrifying. It seemed to be the nemesis of the dark energy. After that kind of golden energy collided with the dark energy was quickly destroyed. You. This is the power of transcendence that can only be born when you're infinitely close to the realm of transcendence. The terrifying existence cried out in fear. That's right. This is the power of transcendence. You're quite knowledgeable, the woman said coldly. Lin Feng's face suddenly revealed an extremely shocked expression. Although this woman didn't complete the transcendence, she was obviously infinitely close to the realm of transcendence when she was at her peak. She even gave birth to the power of transcendence. Lin Feng knew that once the power of transcendence was born in her body, she was only one step away from the realm of transcendence. This step could be taken anytime, anywhere. Then, she would become an existence that transcended the realm of transcendence. This level of expert was too terrifying. In this era, there weren't many experts of this level that were born. "It's time to send you to the place where you should go," the woman said coldly. The golden energy in her body was rapidly devouring the dark energy. The terrifying existence screamed in terror, "Don't kill me. Spare my life. I beg you. Spare my life." But no matter how much he begged, the woman didn't intend to let him go. Lin Feng used the Great Destiny technique. The power of destiny descended from the sky. It directly poured into the dark energy. With the help of the power of destiny, the terrifying existence struggled to get rid of the golden energy and finally escaped. End of chapter. Chapter 56-44. Although he had successfully escaped, he had lost a lot of energy, and his strength had decreased by a lot. On the other hand, the woman's cultivation had increased by quite a bit after devouring the terrifying existence's energy. This made Lin Feng's expression sink. This woman's methods were truly horrifying. Now that they were facing this woman, it was truly a troublesome matter. After all, this woman was simply too frightening. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. He was thinking about how to deal with this terrifying woman. Lin Feng said, "I don't think there's a need to fight to the death between the two of us. After all, what happened between you and Yushang happened countless years ago. Yushang has been dead for so many years. Why do you still hate him so much? Why do you hate him so much? Do you know what happened back then? If you know what happened back then, and if you become me, you'll want to kill him even more than I do." The woman said coldly. Lin Feng said, "I don't know what happened back then, but if you're willing to tell me, I don't mind hearing about what happened between you and Yushang. I think you need an audience. What do you think?" The woman's expression was cold as she said, "You're going to die anyway. There's no harm in telling you this before you die." After saying this, the woman fell silent. Lin Feng knew that she was thinking about something. Lin Feng didn't disturb her. Instead, he waited for her to carefully think about what to say. In fact, women were emotional creatures. No matter how powerful this woman was, she still couldn't shake off the fact that she was a woman. Lin Feng grasped this point and made the woman give up on the idea of fighting to the death with him. Then, she told him about what happened back then. This was a good start, even though she kept saying that she wanted to kill him. However, once this good start was made, she would slowly let go of the grudge in her heart. When the time came, she might be able to let go of this grudge. After about 15 minutes, the woman said, "Back in the Kunlun universe." "Wait a moment," Lin Feng said. The woman frowned and coldly stared at Lin Feng. "What are you doing? Why did you interrupt me?" Lin Feng said in surprise, "You mean, you and Yushang are both from the Kunlun universe?" The woman nodded and said, "That's right. We are all from the Kunlun universe, not the Nine States universe." Previously, Lin Feng thought that Yushang was from the Nine Continents universe. However, Lin Feng thought about it. Back then, Yushang was the ruler of the wasteland. The wasteland was connected to the three supreme realms and the other world. The foreign worlds referred to the other three universes. Kunlun was the head of the four universes. Therefore, the Kunlun universe and the wasteland world were connected, said Lin Feng. "You can continue now," said Lin Feng. The woman continued, "Back then, I was the goddess of the Kunlun universe's top power, while Yushang was just an ordinary person. The two of us were able to walk together after breaking through many obstacles. Only then did we succeed. Later on, we had a cute child. Yushang's comprehension was very high. Back then, he was trying to create the celestial master path. Back then, the four universes were very turbulent. There were many dark things in the four universes. Yushang and his good friend Yixian had always wanted to bring peace to the four universes, but it wasn't easy. However, if Yushang could perfect the celestial master path, everything would change. This was also the reason why Yushang created the celestial master path. Later on, Yushang succeeded. The core orthodoxy of the celestial master path is very terrifying. Although you have the stone scripture now, I believe that you definitely haven't obtained the core orthodoxy of the celestial master path. Because the core orthodoxy of the celestial master path is sealed in the deepest part of the stone scripture, it is extremely difficult to obtain the core inheritance of the heavenly Tao. However, the core orthodoxy of the celestial master path is said to be able to change the structure of the four universes. However, this matter touched upon the interests of those terrifying existences. They felt threatened and wanted to destroy this matter. Thus, those people targeted us, mother and son. That battle resulted in my son's tragic death at the hands of the enemy. I don't understand what righteousness is. I also don't understand if what they did was worth it or not. I only know that my son is dead, and all of this is Yushang's fault. From then on, we became enemies. After hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. This was truly a sad story. After all, her son had died in that battle. For a mother, this was indeed a very painful thing. It was also something that was hard to accept. There was nothing more painful than the pain of losing a child. Lin Feng could understand that woman's feelings. She hated Yushang so much that the husband and wife had turned into enemies. He couldn't help but feel regretful. Lin Feng said, "So in the long years that followed, you hated our celestial master path so much. You even spent a long time researching formations and restrictions to deal with the celestial master path. Did you want to attack Yushang? I want to give him a blow. I want to prove that I'm better than him in this aspect. He should put more of his love on his wife and children and not spend his time on other things. Saving the universe? Who would say that he's good?" Lin Feng said, "I agree with you. The first thing I want to do is to survive and protect my family, loved ones, and friends. If I have the ability, I don't mind doing things to save the world and the epoch. If the world is destroyed, the epoch is destroyed. Everyone will die. Maybe I will die, but so will my family, loved ones, and friends. So, sometimes, some things need to be done by people." Maybe that was what Yushang was thinking back then, but Yushang did not expect those evil people to be so heartless. After all, the four universes agreed to not harm one's family. But those evil people violated those rules. It made people want to cut them into 1,000 pieces, and cut them into 1,000 pieces. Chapter 56-45. Perhaps it was Lin Feng's words that resonated with this woman. Therefore, the coldness in the woman's eyes lessened a lot. In fact, if one really wanted to talk about it, the hatred towards Yushang was because of the death of his child. But deep in his heart, he still loved Shang. After all, after being in love for so many years, how could he let go of the love in his heart so easily? Even after countless years had passed, this kind of love was still unforgettable. Many times, the woman was still thinking about what she had experienced with Yushang back then, but now, she would never be able to see Yushang again. Because Yushang had already died, she was unable to see him for the last time. When she found out that Yushang had died, she was very sad. At that time, Yushang's good friend, Yixin, told her that Yushang would return. She knew how powerful Yixin was. She believed Yixin's words. However, when would Yushang return from his tribulation? Yixin wasn't sure either. This was something that no one knew. Those who returned from the tribulation might never be able to awaken those memories. If he couldn't even remember the memories from back then, would he still be Yushang? For a very long time, she had been slowly waiting for the right moment. She hoped that one day, she would be able to see Yushang appear by her side again. However, she waited for a long time, but Yushang did not appear again. Later on, she saw the demon spirit that had fused with a trace of Yushang's demonic will. For some reason, he really wanted to torture that demon spirit. Perhaps he wanted to vent the hatred in his heart. As a result, the demon spirit was captured by this woman and imprisoned. In the following years, the demon spirit lived a life worse than death. The demon spirit was also very depressed. He thought to himself, "I was just born. I haven't even stirred up any trouble or harmed the world. Yet I was captured and tortured to the point of wishing I was dead." The other demon spirits all became unpardonable devils, and everyone's expression changed when they talked about it. As for me, it was really too tragic. However, these were some things that he had experienced and were difficult to change. Of course, there was a reason why the demon spirit hated this woman so much. This woman actually abhorred evil as if it were her enemy. If it was any other demon spirit, she would have already killed it. However, the demon spirit formed by Yushang's demonic will had not been killed for a long time. Perhaps it was because he wanted to see the demon spirit and think of her. Later on, there was a time. She once went to find Yixin and asked him why he wanted to do that. She couldn't understand what Yixin and Yushang had done. At that time, Yixin was very silent. This was because his good brother, Yushang, had no choice but to undergo a tribulation because of this matter. Moreover, some people in his family had also fallen because of this matter. The two of them were silent for a long time before Yixian said, "It is said that in the beginning there were no four universes. This world was one world, one universe. But later, it was divided into four universes because some unimaginably powerful people forcibly divided the originally complete world into four universes. And these people control everything in the four universes, including reincarnation, rebirth, or the fate of others. They are above all living beings, such as the nine provinces universe, the supreme existence of this universe. What they like to do the most is to destroy countless worlds, destroy countless living beings, destroy a long era, and then let a new era be born. Then, our Kunlun universe has also experienced the destruction of the universe several times. After the destruction of the universe, a new universe will appear. Other than the destruction of the universe, there is another extremely terrifying thing. Many of the powerful forces in our Kunlun universe have been captured, and after they were captured by those supreme existences, their fates were extremely tragic, because their bodies were dissected while they were still alive. Those terrifying existences used parts of the bodies of different races to create some extremely strange creatures, said Li Chia. What a cruel thing to do. Do you think the existences behind the scenes are still human? When you were weak, you wanted to become strong, so you could protect your loved ones, family members, friends, and so on. But when you became strong, you realized that the world was so dark. When faced with many things, we feel helpless and helpless. All we can do is try our best to resist these things. Even if we don't do it for the people we don't know, we still have to do it for ourselves, for our loved ones, our family, our friends, and so on. Don't you think so? Yushang and I have known each other since we were young. Maybe you don't know about some of the things that happened when we were young, but when I was young, I first came in contact with some of the Celestial Master's inheritances, which came from Yushang. That was the predecessor of the Celestial Master's Path, and it was called the Genesis Master's Path. Yushang gave me the Genesis Master's book, and then I came in contact with a new world. Later on, Yushang created the Celestial Master's Path on that foundation. The core content is terrifying, so the existences behind the scenes are extremely afraid. Yushang is now going through the Kulpa, but there are some things that need to continue. I will do them. Isn't this very dangerous? Asked the woman. But someone has to do it. I hope that my loved ones, family members, and friends can live happily. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. So I hope that you can understand, Yushang, said Yixian. That was the last time she saw Yixian. After that, she lived in seclusion in the Nine Continents universe. After a long period of time, she woke up again, but everything had changed. It seemed that this epoch was about to be destroyed again. This epoch was the saddest epoch and the most despairing one, because this era was the 3000th era, the 3000th era. According to Yixian, the 3000th era of the Nine Provinces universe was equivalent to a great cycle of reincarnation according to the time of the four great universes. The four great universes would undergo reincarnation at the same time. In other words, the four great universes would be destroyed at the same time, and all living beings would die. A new universe would be born. The funny thing was that many of the survivors of this epoch didn't know. They didn't even know about this. They thought that they would be able to survive the next epoch. But this time, it was basically impossible. When the four universes were destroyed at the same time, only the supreme existences, such as the existence of the Mastermind's world, would be able to survive. The rest of the living things would die. The woman thought too much, and her expression kept changing. She looked at Lin Feng, sighed, and said, I won't make things difficult for you. You can leave. Lin Feng coughed dryly and said, I want a star mapped to the buried god's star field. P.S. Yixian is the main character of the new book, Devour the Heavens. The immeasurable Taoist's previous life was Yushang. The new book has 400,000 words. Everyone, go and collect it. This is the first update. There are 4 more updates tonight. Please subscribe. M. Chapter 56-46. You want the starry sky map to the buried god Starfield? What do you want it for? That place isn't a place you should go. If you go there, do you think you can survive? Let me tell you, there are many people who want to kill you in that place. The woman said. Lin Feng didn't deny this point. That place was indeed very dangerous. If he went there, there would be many people who wanted to kill him. After all, that place was a place where the lost races of the epic gathered. There were many terrifying lost races of the epic in such a place. For example, the Black Robe race, Black Mist race, and other races. They were very powerful forces in the buried god starfield, and they had top experts guarding them. In addition, the most terrifying thing was that it was said that the mastermind behind the scenes was also active in that place. If Lin Feng went to the buried god starfield and the news didn't spread, then it would be better. But if it spread, then he would be wanted by those big forces. Although Lin Feng's trump card was very powerful, the key was that if those big forces sent their top experts, for example, some transcendental level existences or even higher experts, then it would be too dangerous for Lin Feng. However, no matter how dangerous it was, Lin Feng had to go to the buried god starfield. Lin Feng said, I have a very important matter to deal with in the buried god starfield. Even if there is a slim chance of death, I must go there and take a look. The woman nodded and said, If you aren't afraid of death, then I can give you the starry sky map. She threw a jade tube to Lin Feng. After Lin Feng carefully looked at it, his face suddenly revealed an extremely excited expression. Because the starry sky map recorded in the jade tube was the starry sky map to the buried god starfield. He finally got the starry sky map to the buried god starfield. This way, he could continue to go to the buried god starfield. Because of the various magnetic fields along the way, it would be very dangerous. After all, it was very easy to get lost in those magnetic fields. Fortunately, Lin Feng had the heart compass, so he didn't have to worry about getting lost in the magnetic fields. For others, this starry sky ancient path might be very difficult to cross, but for Lin Feng, it wasn't impossible. Many thanks, Senior. Lin Feng cupped his fists and said. Then Lin Feng continued, Senior, these two women have a grudge with me. Can I take them away? In fact, Lin Feng wanted Huang Fuxian, and Fairy Fengxian to become his slaves. When the time came, he would properly train them and then play a good show with them. Lin Feng couldn't wait to see the two women's expressions when they turned into slaves. That kind of extreme difference must be hard for them to accept, right? Senior, please don't hand us over to him. I beg you, Senior. Huang Fuxian begged. The woman looked at Huang Fuxian and looked at her carefully. She said in surprise, You're actually the reincarnation of the Empyrean fairy. Huang Fuxian hurriedly nodded and said, That's right, Senior. I'm one of the 9 reincarnations of the Empyrean fairy, but I haven't awakened some of my memories from my previous life. Please save us. The woman looked at Lin Feng and said, Back then, the Empyrean fairy helped me. Since she's the reincarnation of the Empyrean fairy, I can't let you take her away. I hope you can understand. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a little regretful. However, since the woman had said so, even if Lin Feng didn't agree, there was nothing he could do. Lin Feng didn't want to completely offend this woman. Moreover, it was basically impossible to snatch him away from this woman. Lin Feng said, Then I'll take my leave. The woman nodded. Lin Feng then flew outside. Mo Ling wanted to leave with Lin Feng, but he was restrained by the woman. Evidently, this woman wouldn't let Mo Ling go so easily. Moreover, Mo Ling had been formed by fusing with Yu Shang's demonic will, which contained the will to kill. If Mo Ling was allowed to leave, and there was no one to restrain him, this guy would definitely become a heinous devil. It was better to let him continue to stay here. With this woman restraining him, he wouldn't become an unpardonable existence. Lin Feng smoothly walked out from the depths of the white immortal valley. Seeing Lin Feng come out, the beautiful woman looked extremely happy. She asked, Did you get what you wanted? Lin Feng nodded. The woman said mysteriously, I found some Dao aura in a certain place, so I went there to gain some enlightenment and obtained some powerful immortal spells and divine incantations. Do you want to go there and take a look? I can take you there to have a look. Evidently, the beautiful woman was quite excited because of this fortuitous encounter. Lin Feng thought about it and gave up on the idea. He just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. After all, who knew if the woman would go back on her word? If she were to go back on her word, it would be too dangerous for him. Lin Feng said to the beautiful woman, "We can't stay here for too long. Let's leave quickly." The beautiful woman nodded and left the white immortal valley with Lin Feng. After they came out, the beautiful woman looked at Lin Feng and asked, "What do you plan to do next, young master?" Lin Feng said, "I plan to go to the buried god's starfield." "What do you plan to do?" The beautiful woman said, "I want to go to my homeland and build a cenotaph for my younger sister in front of my parents' graves. I hope that she can accompany them forever." Lin Feng nodded. After chatting with the beautiful woman for a while, the two parted ways. The beautiful woman looked at Lin Feng's departing figure inside. She withdrew her gaze and quickly flew into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng didn't stop on the way and directly returned to his residence. When they saw that Lin Feng had returned, Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint were very happy. Lin Feng hadn't used any of the trump cards he had left behind. It seemed that the situation wasn't as bad as they had imagined. Du Zhu asked, "Did everything go smoothly?" Lin Feng nodded and said, "Although there were many twists and turns, it was still relatively smooth. I've already found a spatial map to the buried god's starfield. Let's rest for a day, then we'll set off tomorrow." Chapter 56-47. On the second day, Lin Feng's group of 3 set off towards the buried god's starfield along the starry sky route. The Xinyuan ancient starship quickly flew through the starry sky world. Lin Feng, Du Zhu, Evil Revered Holy, and the others were cultivating inside the Xinyuan ancient starship. Lin Feng entered the Divine Tao Immortal Palace to check what was inside the 7th palace. When Lin Feng came in, he immediately discovered that there was a scroll inside the Divine Tao Immortal Palace. The scroll recorded a complete meridian diagram cultivation method. After seeing the meridian diagram cultivation method, Lin Feng's face suddenly revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. In fact, Lin Feng had been thinking about cultivating the meridian diagram recently. However, Lin Feng hadn't obtained an extremely powerful meridian diagram. Therefore, this matter couldn't be realized for the time being. Of course, Lin Feng's main focus wasn't on the meridian diagram. However, if he could obtain some meridian diagrams, he could study them carefully. When he obtained a powerful meridian diagram in the future, he could choose the best meridian diagram to cultivate. Lin Feng looked at the picture of the meridians. This meridian diagram was called the chaotic meridian diagram. The chaotic meridian diagram contained all the acupoints in the human body. This made Lin Feng extremely surprised. After all, the human body had so many acupoints. An ordinary meridian diagram basically contained a portion of the acupoints. The smallest meridian diagram only contained 7 acupoints. This meridian diagram actually contained all the acupoints in the human body. If these acupoints could be connected together, then the meridian diagram formed would be terrifying. Lin Feng carefully examined it. He wanted to see the origin of this meridian diagram. However, this meridian diagram only contained the cultivation method. There was no information about its origin. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he could know the origin of this meridian diagram, then it would be even better. However, even if he didn't know the origin of this meridian diagram, it didn't matter. Obtaining the cultivation method was the most important thing. Then, Lin Feng started to meditate on the primal chaos meridian diagram. Time passed slowly like this. The ancient starship Xinyuan flew for about 5 years in the starry sky world and passed through many regions with life planets. Sometimes, they would also land on some life planets to rest. After all, Lin Feng and the others also needed to relax. Constantly traveling in the cold and desolate starry sky world was very torturous for people. After all, humans were social creatures. Anyone who had been stuck in this cold and desolate world would feel lonely. On this day, 5 years later, Lin Feng and the others arrived at the first magnetic field. The magnetic field here was very terrifying. Although they were quite far away from the magnetic field, Lin Feng and the others could still feel the terrifying aura emitted by the magnetic field. That kind of terrifying aura made Lin Feng involuntarily shocked. Soon, the Xinyuan ancient city arrived at the periphery of the magnetic field. In the starry sky world, there were many cultivators wandering around outside the magnetic field. Obviously, they knew that it was not easy to pass through the magnetic field here. Therefore, they did not immediately enter the starry sky world where the magnetic field was located. Instead, they stood outside and watched. Lin Feng's group of 3 also flew out of the ancient starship Xianyuan. Lin Feng did not intend to ride the ancient starship Xianyuan to pass through the starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field. If they encountered any danger, they could easily destroy the ancient starship Xianyuan. The ancient starship Xianyuan had followed Lin Feng for a long time. Therefore, Lin Feng naturally did not want to see the ancient starship Xianyuan get destroyed in the starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field. Lin Feng immediately took out the heart compass and summoned the sacred Martin, Great Immortal. Then, he asked the sacred Martin, Great Immortal, to help him locate the magnetic field. Lin Feng hoped to borrow the sacred Martin, Great Immortal's ability to pass through the starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field. Previously, the sacred Martin, Great Immortal, had received many benefits from Lin Feng. Therefore, the sacred Martin, Great Immortal agreed to all of Lin Feng's requests. Then, Lin Feng asked the sacred Martin, Great Immortal, to take a look at the starry sky route map. The sacred Martin, Great Immortal memorized the starry sky route map. Then, Lin Feng and the others entered the starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field. This starry sky world was indeed very dangerous. Along the way, Lin Feng saw many ancient ships floating in the starry sky world. Lin Feng's group of 3 boarded many ancient ships to check out the specific situation. However, they found that these ancient ships were completely empty. There was not a single person inside. Not only was there no one inside, there weren't even any corpses. This was the strangest thing. If people died, their corpses should at least exist, right? But where did the corpses go? Lin Feng's group discovered something that made their hair stand on end. Many of the things on the ancient ships were still very fresh. For example, some food, spiritual fruits, and the like. Moreover, some of the ancient ships even had boiling water on them. Some of the cups of spiritual tea still had some temperature. This made Lin Feng's group extremely puzzled. Logically speaking, many of these ancient ships should have been plundered a long time ago. But why were the things inside still so fresh? Why wasn't the fire in the furnace extinguished? Why was the spiritual tea still warm? Lin Feng had too many doubts. All of this was like an unsolved mystery. This place was simply too terrifying. No wonder it was so difficult to head to the buried god star field. This was only the first starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field. There were still many starry sky worlds shrouded by the magnetic field. One could imagine that the starry sky worlds shrouded by the magnetic field would be extremely dangerous. They might even be more dangerous than this place. This was simply too terrifying. Lin Feng's group of 3 quickly traversed through the starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field. They weren't willing to stay here for too long. The longer they stayed here, the more dangerous it would be. They hoped to quickly leave this starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field. The heart plate was also greatly affected by this place. There were a few times where it deviated from its path. Fortunately, the sacred Martin, Great Immortal's ability was extremely powerful. The sacred Martin, Great Immortal fused with the heart plate. Lin Feng's group returned to the correct starry sky path time and time again. Then, they continued to traverse. However, just as they were about to leave this starry sky world shrouded by the magnetic field, Lin Feng's group of 3 encountered an extremely big problem. Lin Feng felt as if there was an invisible force rapidly spreading behind them. A gloomy and cold aura shrouded the entire starry sky world. Lin Feng didn't know where that aura came from. However, that aura made Lin Feng's soul tremble. Presumably, the unknown existence chasing after them must be extremely terrifying. Chapter 56-48. At the end of the era, many terrifying existences would appear in this world. Some of them were existences that even Lin Feng could not understand. After all, this era had already gone through 3,000 eras. Most of the experts born in these 3,000 eras had fallen in the calamities of heaven and earth time and time again. However, it did not mean that all the experts had fallen. Some of them had not fallen. For example, some experts who had entered the time reversal world had not fallen. Some experts who were hiding in a certain small world had not fallen. Some experts who were sitting at the hidden latch of life and death in a hidden place had not fallen. Some extremely powerful experts had not fallen. Usually, these terrifying existences would not appear. However, it was now the end of the era. The four universes were about to be destroyed. Everyone wanted to improve their cultivation as quickly as possible so that they could get through this tribulation. However, it was extremely difficult to get through this calamity. Therefore, at this time, they needed to constantly devour powerful luck and improve their own luck by devouring others' luck. In addition, they needed to seek all kinds of opportunities to improve their cultivation. They also needed to find many powerful magic treasures to improve their strength. For example, Lin Feng liked to look for ancient weapon-level treasures to improve his foundation and strength. Once the Battle of Extinction broke out, these things would play an extremely important role. There were many experts in this world, so Lin Feng did not know what kind of creature the unknown existence was. When Lin Feng tried to sense this existence, he could not find any trace of it at all. He could not find where it was hiding. This was enough to explain too many problems. Lin Feng knew that there weren't many people who had the strength of the surpassing layer in this era. However, it did not mean that there were no transcendents. There were still some transcendents. However, an existence like the Mastermind was not an expert who had completed the transcendence in this era. This led to another problem. In other words, in the previous eras, had the transcendents fallen? If they had not fallen, would they have come out at this time? There was a high probability that he would come out. 3,000 epochs had already passed in this universe. How many epochs was that? Every epoch would give birth to a group of transcendents. With their strength, it was not a problem for them to survive the Doomsday War. Since there was no problem and they were not killed by others, theoretically speaking, these existences could live until modern times. Think about it. 3,000 epochs. Every epoch would give birth to some Transcendence Realm experts. How many Transcendence Realm experts would there be when all 3,000 epochs were added together? This was definitely not a small number. Not to mention too many, at the very least, there were more than 10,000 people, right? And this group of people was the most powerful existence in the universe. As for the quasi-transcendents, there were even more of them. That was because it was truly too difficult to surpass them. However, breaking through to the quasi-transcendence realm was much easier. Although quasi-transcendents couldn't be compared to transcendents, quasi-transcendents were still extremely terrifying. They were stronger than Sage Realm experts. For example, Yu Shang's lover was still so terrifying after sleeping for such a long time. One could imagine how strong she was when she was at her peak. Lin Feng felt that the existence behind them at this moment was very likely to be a quasi-transcendence expert. An expert of this level was too terrifying. The most shocking thing was that Lin Feng felt that this existence's strength should not have dropped significantly. Generally, when one's strength dropped significantly, there would be some more serious situations. For example, being suppressed for a long time. During these years of suppression, one would not be able to absorb the energy of heaven and earth to replenish some of the nutrients needed by the body. As a result, one's cultivation level would drop significantly. Another example would be when one's body suffered some extremely serious injuries. For example, some Dao injuries that were difficult to heal, injuries to the origin, injuries to the soul, and so on. These injuries could also cause a cultivator's strength to drop significantly. In addition, if one's body weakened due to old age, one's strength could also drop significantly. Basically, these three reasons would cause a cultivator's strength to drop significantly. However, some people had extremely long lifespans like quasi-transcendence or even transcendence. Perhaps they had already grasped some methods to extend their lifespans. This would allow them to live in a peak state for a long time. Although this method was rare, it should be possible for top experts like them to find it. Therefore, Lin Feng had no intention of fighting when he sensed the existence behind them. He directly swept up Du Zhu and the heretical sovereign saint and quickly flew forward. Lin Feng's speed was extremely fast, but so was the existence behind him. He was even faster than Lin Feng. The distance between the two sides was constantly closing. Lin Feng's expression sank slightly. The terrifying existence sneered as if he felt that he would be able to catch up to Lin Feng soon. Fortunately, Lin Feng had deep attainments in the spatial Dao. When Lin Feng used the spatial Dao, he perfectly combined the spatial Dao with his speed. Lin Feng's speed increased substantially, and he pulled a certain distance away from the unknown existence behind him. The unknown existence was obviously extremely angry. He also increased his speed crazily. A cold aura permeated between heaven and earth as if the starry sky world was about to be frozen. Even though they were far away, Lin Feng and the other two still felt cold. This unknown existence was really terrifying. However, although he was increasing his speed, when Lin Feng's speed reached its peak, the unknown existence still couldn't catch up to Lin Feng and was left further and further behind by Lin Feng. After chasing for a long distance, Lin Feng finally shook him off completely. Lin Feng took Du Zhu and the heretical sovereign saint and successfully escaped from the starry sky world enveloped by the magnetic field. Chapter 56-49. After successfully leaving the starry sky world shrouded in the magnetic field, Lin Feng and the other two couldn't help but reveal a relieved expression. If that terrifying existence had caught up to them, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Although Lin Feng and the others had very powerful means, it would still be very troublesome for them to face a quasi-transcendent level existence. At the very least, there would be casualties. This wasn't something that Lin Feng wanted to see. After Lin Feng and the other two successfully came out of the starry sky world shrouded in the magnetic field, that unknown and terrifying existence didn't chase them out of the starry sky world shrouded in the magnetic field. The three of them had already expected this situation. Lin Feng felt that the other party might be afraid of something. Therefore, an existence of that level wouldn't easily leave the area shrouded in the magnetic field. Lin Feng planned to find a place to rest. During this period of time, his nerves had been tense, especially when he was traveling through the magnetic field shrouded in the starry sky world. It made him extremely nervous. No matter what he did, he had to strike a balance between work and rest. Although Lin Feng was in a hurry to rush to the buried god starfield to rescue his mother, Lin Feng also knew that going to the buried god starfield to rescue his mother wasn't something that could be done overnight. There were some things that couldn't be done even if one was anxious. Lin Feng summoned the Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship, and then the three of them boarded the ancient starry sky ship. The Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship quickly flew through the starry sky world. Soon after, they saw a life planet. This life planet wasn't particularly big, but it was very lively. Many cultivators would go to this life planet to trade some items. This place was equivalent to a gathering place for cultivators. Lin Feng and the other two arrived at this life planet. They stayed here for about 10 days and had a good rest. Lin Feng didn't cultivate during these days. He tried to relax as much as possible. This kind of rest that allowed him to completely release himself was extremely effective for his recovery, especially for his spirit. During these 10 days, Lin Feng recovered quite well. His condition had reached about 80 to 90% of his peak state. Lin Feng planned to leave this life planet tomorrow and continue to the buried god star field. But on this night, Lin Feng felt something wrong. This was because he felt a devil power. This devil power was very similar to the aura of the Great Devil Yu. The Great Devil Yu belonged to the top ancient devil race. This devil race was extremely terrifying. Of course, the Great Devil Yu's race was just one of the top devil races. There were some top devil races that weren't weaker than the Great Devil Yu's race. Before Lin, the Great Devil Yu, and now the Great Devil Yu's Great Devil Yu. Now, the Great Mo-Yu was Lin Feng's slave. Even though she was just a slave, she was Lin Feng's woman now. Lin Feng wanted to see if he could cooperate with the Great Devil Realm through the Great Devil Yu. In the future, Lin Feng planned to go to the Devil Realm to subdue it. However, this matter wouldn't be easy to succeed. This was because the Devil Realm was very chaotic. Subduing the Devil Realm was an extremely difficult matter. But since Lin Feng had the Devil Lord token, he still had some confidence in subduing the Devil Realm. Although this ancient devil aura was very similar to the Great Devil Yu's aura, Lin Feng didn't know the identity of the other party. Lin Feng quickly woke up Du Zhu, the evil revered saint, and they flew out of their residence. Then, they saw an endless black fog rolling. Inside the black fog, they didn't know what kind of existence was inside. At this time, a cold voice was suddenly heard, "Devil swallows the heavens." After the voice was heard, the darkness seemed to want to swallow the entire planet. Lin Feng felt that the situation had become very bad. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. He quickly used his space travel and brought Du Zhu, the evil revered saint, and quickly left the planet. They arrived at the starry sky outside. Then, Lin Feng and the others saw that the life planet they were on before was swallowed up. There were about 1 billion people on that planet, and there were people of all races. But now, all of them had been devoured. This situation was too tragic. Lin Feng didn't know if anyone else had managed to escape, but Lin Feng had the feeling that no one else had managed to escape. The others were probably all dead. After swallowing the planet, the black smoke turned into a strong cultivator in black clothes. That strong cultivator released an extremely evil qi. Lin Feng couldn't help but be afraid of that kind of qi. It was definitely a terrifying cultivator. Moreover, Lin Feng discovered that this person seemed to have the bloodline of the ancient devil race and the black fog race. Lin Feng could easily determine the bloodline of the black fog race. This was because the aura of the black fog race had been deeply imprinted in Lin Feng's mind. No matter how well they hid their aura, Lin Feng could still sense it. Unless they were far stronger than Lin Feng or had some extremely special means to hide their aura, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to sense the aura of the black fog race. However, the existence in front of him didn't hide its aura at all. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't even need to sense it carefully. He only needed to sense a little to determine what kind of background this person had. After swallowing a planet, this terrifying existence looked like it hadn't had enough. Its cold eyes looked at Lin Feng and the others in the starry sky world. Although there was a long distance between them, Lin Feng could still see the dense killing intent in its eyes. This terrifying existence didn't expect anyone to be able to escape after being swallowed by it. However, it didn't take Lin Feng and the others seriously. After sensing the powerful fate contained in Lin Feng's body, this terrifying existence showed a shocked expression. Then, it became excited. It quickly flew towards Lin Feng. Obviously, it saw Lin Feng as prey. Chapter 5650. Lin Feng raised an eyebrow at the sight of this terrifying existence flying over. He did not leave, because Lin Feng was a bold and powerful person. How could he leave so easily? If this person was really courting death, Lin Feng did not mind sending him to hell. Soon, the devil flew over and looked at Lin Feng coldly. "Why didn't you run?" Lin Feng replied indifferently. "Why should I run?" The devil laughed and said, "Looks like you're very confident in yourself. However, it's indeed rare to see someone with such great luck. I'm sure you have some tricks up your sleeve. But even if you do, so what? You can't even withstand a single blow from me. Killing you won't be difficult for me. You think too highly of yourself." Lin Feng shook his head. "We'll know after the battle whether or not he thinks too highly of himself." The devil sneered. Then, he opened his palm and slapped at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was cold. Without fear, he met the devil's attack with his palm. Bang! Both sides attacked. They collided fiercely. Terrifying energy ripples spread out in all directions. The collision between the two sides caused too much damage to the void. The surrounding void was shattered, and dense cracks appeared in it. After this collision, Lin Feng did not manage to gain the upper hand. In fact, he was even suppressed. This devil was truly terrifying. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. However, the devil was also extremely shocked. Although he had gained the upper hand, he was unable to cause too much damage to Lin Feng. He had a clear understanding of his own strength. How tyrannical was his strength? To think that he couldn't suppress this human. Furthermore, this human cultivator was clearly extremely young. To think that he would have such a cultivation base at such a young age. This was something that he found inconceivable. However, he soon revealed an extremely excited expression. The stronger Lin Feng was, the more extraordinary Lin Feng was. If he could devour Lin Feng, he would gain even more benefits. From the beginning to the end, the demon had absolute confidence in his own strength. In his eyes, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. In the end, he would only become his nourishment. After eating you, I'll gain even more benefits than eating all the living beings on 100 life planets, the devil sneered. After saying that, the devil charged at Lin Feng again. He wanted to kill Lin Feng quickly and eat him. He was also worried that Lin Feng would run away. However, Lin Feng had no intention of escaping. Lin Feng sneered. You want to deal with me with your strength? You're still far from it. Lin Feng waved his hand and summoned the Book of the Undead. There were 56 undead in the Book of the Undead. They were all Sage Realm undead. Among the 56 Sage Realm undead, there was even a 7th Heaven Sage Realm undead. With so many powerful undead working together in Lin Feng, wouldn't it be easy to deal with this devil? Actually, if they fought one-on-one, Lin Feng wouldn't necessarily lose. Lin Feng was at a disadvantage just now, but Lin Feng still had many powerful techniques that he hadn't used yet. For example, he hadn't activated the 5 great ancient weapons. For example, he hadn't used the ruler's armor, sacred bone, the magic lotus, Panga's mark, the golden dwarf, and the stone golem clone. If he used all kinds of techniques, his battle prowess would increase exponentially. However, he didn't need to use these trump cards to deal with this devil. He could just use the simplest method. The simplest method was naturally to use the undead in the Book of the Undead to deal with this devil. 56 specters spread out and surrounded the demon. Some time ago, Lin Feng had created a combination attack for the 56 devils. Using the combination attack would greatly increase the battle prowess of the undead. It was an extremely terrifying technique. Lin Feng couldn't help but praise himself for being a genius. He had actually created such a powerful combination attack. However, the 56 undead spirits had never had the opportunity to use the joint attack technique. This time, they finally had the opportunity to use it. They could test the power of the joint attack technique by dealing with the demon in front of them. After seeing the 56 undead, the devil's expression finally changed. The corner of his mouth twitched. Clearly, he hadn't expected Lin Feng to have such a technique. That treasure of yours is the legendary Book of the Undead, the devil said with a gloomy expression. The devil had actually recognized Lin Feng's undead technique. Lin Feng sneered. That's right. This treasure of mine is indeed the undead technique. With 56 undead under my control and myself included, do you think you can still escape today? After Lin Feng said that, the undead began to use the combination attack. A terrifying aura surged out from the bodies of the 56 undead spirits. Boom, 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 boom. Terrifying attacks were brewing. 56 dead spirits attacked this demon. All sorts of terrifying attacks bombarded the devil. Under the joint attack of the 56 undead, the devil was immediately suppressed. Although his cultivation was very strong, it was difficult for him to pose too much of a threat to the 56 undead who had mastered the joint attack technique. The devil was extremely angry and sullen. Despite his powerful cultivation, he couldn't fully display his cultivation when surrounded. He looked furiously at Lin Feng and said, "You don't even have the courage to fight me alone?" Lin Feng smiled coldly. "Why would I want to fight against you alone? I like fighting in groups." The devil said coldly, "Fighting in groups is just an excuse you use to comfort yourself. You're actually a coward." Lin Feng said, "Let me put it another way. I like fighting in groups, but it's you fighting all of us alone." The devil gnashed his teeth when he heard Lin Feng's words. Did this guy take him for a fool? How dare he tease him like this? The devil wanted nothing more than to tear Lin Feng to pieces. However, he also knew that he was in a very bad situation. Lin Feng had 56 undead, and they knew how to combine attacks. Lin Feng hadn't even made a move yet. If Lin Feng made a move, the devil's situation would be even worse. Thus, the devil didn't want to continue fighting the undead. He wanted to break out of the encirclement, find some experts, and work together to kill Lin Feng. Chapter 56-51. How could Lin Feng let this devil go so easily? Under the attacks of the 56 departed spirits, the devil was greatly suppressed. Lin Feng knew that this devil must have some powerful methods, such as desperate measures. After all, the devil race often had terrifying methods, so Lin Feng didn't want to give this devil any chance to resist. While the 56 departed spirits were suppressing the devil, Lin Feng attacked. Lin Feng summoned the door of everlasting life. The door of everlasting life descended from the sky and oppressed the demon. The 56 undead spirits were suppressing the demon, but the demon couldn't move at all. Facing the suppression of the gate of everlasting life, the devil couldn't do anything. He couldn't deal with the gate of everlasting life. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The gate of everlasting life fiercely suppressed the devil. In an instant, the devil was suppressed in the void. "Let me go! Let me go!" The devil roared furiously. An endless devil chi surged out of his body. He wanted to resist, but the gate of everlasting life was too powerful. When the gate of everlasting life suppressed him, he couldn't resist at all. Lin Feng coldly looked at the devil and said, "Don't try to struggle, you can't break free. Now, let me search your soul and see what you have in your memories." After saying that, Lin Feng arrived in front of the devil. The devil roared furiously, "Do you know who I am? Do you know what kind of power I have behind me? If you dare to search my soul and do anything to harm me, you're dead." Lin Feng couldn't help but sneer. He didn't care about the devil's threat at all. Lin Feng opened his hand and directly grabbed the devil's head, then used the soul search technique on the devil. Countless scenes appeared in Lin Feng's mind. It turned out that this devil was a devil from the ancient chaos era. During the ancient chaos era, some ancient devils joined forces with otherworldly beings and lost races to create chaos. At that time, the ancient chaos great emperor suppressed this rebellion. And this devil was one of the ancient devils from back then. His identity was indeed not simple. In the past, he was also a terrifying existence. At his strongest, he was a master who surpassed the realm of cultivation. However, because he was suppressed for many years, his cultivation dropped drastically. The end of the epoch was in turmoil. Many seals were opened. This devil broke the seal and saw the light of day again. This guy came to the starry sky world and continuously devoured powerful cultivators to improve his cultivation. In the beginning, he only devoured cultivators, but later on, he started devouring life planets. One life planet after another was devoured by him. It could be said that this guy was simply a heinous existence. Who knew how many living beings had died in his hands? Lin Feng naturally did not have any good impression of such an existence. Killing him 1,000 or 10,000 times would be letting him off easy. Later on, Lin Feng saw some more scenes. Due to the arrival of the end of the ancient era, many ancient devils came into being. Then, these ancient devils gathered together and formed an extremely powerful force. These ancient devils seemed to be planning something important. However, what they were planning was covered by a strange power. Lin Feng could not find out. However, Lin Feng saw a scene in this devil's memory. That scene was actually a battle between two cultivators. One of the cultivators was Lin Feng's good friend, Gongzi Yu. The other person was Gong Zong Nye, Gongzi Yu's half-brother. Lin Feng remembered hearing that Gong Zong Nye had fallen. It seemed like the news was not accurate. There were all kinds of fake news flying around. Lin Feng hadn't heard any news about Gongzi Yu for a long time. Now that he saw these scenes, he knew where Gongzi Yu was. He didn't expect Gongzi Yu to go to the devil realm. Gongzi Yu was a cultivator of the heavenly devil race, so it was normal for him to go to the devil realm. After all, the devil realm was the ancestral land of all devils. That place was filled with countless mysteries. Perhaps going there could greatly increase Gongzi Yu's cultivation. However, Gong Zong Nye was not simple. Would Gongzi Yu be able to deal with Gong Zong Nye? After reading these memories, Lin Feng slapped the devil's body. With a bang, the devil's body directly exploded, leaving behind only its source energy. Although its source energy was very powerful, it wasn't of much use to Lin Feng. Therefore, Lin Feng gave this devil's source energy to Du Zhu, an evil sovereign saint. If they refined this source energy, their cultivation would definitely increase greatly. Moreover, Lin Feng really wanted them to increase their cultivation as soon as possible. Of course, their cultivation was also increasing quite fast. They had already broken through to the true immortal realm. Although they weren't like Lin Feng, who could cross many realms to challenge people. However, crossing one or two realms wasn't a problem. If they could reach the Golden Immortal or Saint Immortal realm, they might be able to compete with Saint Immortal realm experts. Lin Feng summoned the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship. Then, the three of them continued to travel along the ancient starry sky path. About half a year later, Du Zhu, an evil sovereign saint, came out of seclusion. They had obtained great benefits from this seclusion. Du Zhu, an evil sovereign saint, were about to break through. The two of them summoned their lightning tribulation. Lin Feng stood in the distance and watched them go through their tribulation. About a month later, Du Zhu, an evil sovereign saint, succeeded. The two of them broke through to the Tao Immortal realm. The ancient starry sky ship continued to travel in the starry sky world. Chapter 56-52. Among the 3,000 great worlds, there were quite a few that had been destroyed in the Great Wars. At present, it was already quite good that there were 2,000 great worlds left. However, this universe was so vast that it was almost impossible for a cultivator to traverse the entire universe in their lifetime. Even Lin Feng had only been to a limited number of great worlds. That's all. The great world in front of him was definitely an extraordinary one. Lin Feng could sense that it contained an incredible amount of energy. Different great worlds contained different amounts of energy. For example, the Undying world was ranked first among the 3,000 great worlds. It had already reached the level of a half-higher plane. It contained terrifying amounts of energy. The world's core was also extremely powerful. The great world in front of him couldn't compare to the Undying world. However, it was still no small matter. "Which great world is this?" asked Lin Feng. Du Zhu and the evildoer saint shook their heads. They also didn't know which great world this was. After all, they had never been here before. At this time, the demon lord transmitted to Lin Feng. "This great world is the legendary Great Yin Great World." Great Yin Great World? Lin Feng was startled. He hadn't expected it to be this great world. The Great Yin Ancient Emperor was one of the strongest experts of the human race in this epoch. Of course, Lin Feng had some connection with the Great Yin Ancient Emperor's bloodline. Back then, Lin Feng had saved the Great Yin Ancient Emperor's daughter, Little Yao Yao, in the banished Great World. Back then, the Great Yin Ancient Emperor had died while suppressing a rebellion. Before he died, he had sealed Little Yao Yao, and she had only been born after countless years. Little Yao Yao's fate was full of misfortune. Later, the Great Yin Ancient Emperor's people had come to take her away. Back then, Little Yao Yao had invited Lin Feng to visit her family as a guest. Lin Feng had agreed. At that time, Lin Feng was only in his teens. He did not know what he would become in the future. Would he be able to leave the Sky Martial continent? More than 200 years had passed, and Lin Feng had already become an overlord. Unintentionally, he had come to the Great Yin world. This brought back many memories of Lin Feng. He wondered how Little Yao Yao was doing. When Lin Feng saw Little Yao Yao, she was only 3 or 4 years old. She was very cute. Now that so many years had passed, she must have become a peerless fairy. Thinking of this, Lin Feng could not help but smile. Perhaps he could go to the Lunar Great World to take a look now. I wonder how the Lunar Ancient Emperor's lineage is doing now? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. Lin Feng only remembered that this tribe was extraordinary. Besides the Lunar Ancient Emperor, there was another Ancient Emperor in this tribe. Although it might not be at the level of the Great Yin Ancient Emperor, it was still extremely terrifying. The Lunar Ancient Emperor's lineage had 2 emperors. It was very rare. The emperors here were not great emperors. They were existences equivalent to ancient sacred emperors of the human race. At the very least, they had to be at the peak of the sage realm or beyond to be qualified to be called sacred emperors. That was why this lineage had been extremely prosperous back then. Even now, this lineage was extremely powerful. The ancient starship Xianyuan sped up and soon arrived at the starry sky world where the Great Yin world was located. Countless cultivators and ancient starships gathered from all directions outside the Great Een World and flew towards the Great Een World. A planet on the level of a great world would cover a large starfield. The Great World was usually the core of the starfield. That was why countless cultivators in the starfield would gather there. The Xinyuan ancient starship quickly flew into the lunar Great World. After arriving, Lin Feng put the ancient starship away. The area they were in was a vast and boundless sea. Lin Feng and the other two chose a direction and quickly flew towards it. They wanted to find a place to settle down first. After about 3 days, Lin Feng saw a huge island appear in the sea. The island was boundless, just like a continent. Many ancient starships sailed towards the island from all directions. Many ancient starships were sent by countries from the secular world to the sea region in search of immortal pills. Lin Feng and the other two landed on the island. There were many people coming and going on the island. It was very lively. They could feel the prosperity of this great world from here. Lin Feng planned to find a place to stay first before looking for information about the lunar ancient emperor's lineage. They found a place to stay. Then, they went out for a good meal. Then, they went to the place where they were looking for information. They were in a trading company looking for information about the lunar ancient emperor's lineage. The deacon who served Lin Feng and the other two heard that Lin Feng and the other two were looking for information about the lunar ancient emperor's lineage. Suddenly, he was startled. The deacon said, "Young master, you must be a foreign cultivator, right?" Lin Feng nodded and asked in surprise, "How do you know that we are foreign cultivators?" "Because only foreign cultivators dare to ask about the lunar ancient emperor's lineage. Cultivators from the lunar great world would never dare to ask about the lunar ancient emperor's lineage because the lunar ancient emperor's lineage is taboo in the lunar great world." After hearing the deacon's words, Lin Feng could not help but frown slightly. He felt that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. When Lin Feng met the lunar ancient emperor's lineage, the lunar ancient emperor's lineage was still very powerful. Logically speaking, such a force should still be very powerful now. Why did it become taboo? Lin Feng felt that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Therefore, Lin Feng asked, "Could it be that something happened? I really can't tell young master much about this matter. Moreover, I advise young master not to talk about the lunar ancient emperor's lineage anymore in case you get killed." The deacon continued. Lin Feng did not say anything else and directly took out 1,000,000 immortal stones. He handed it over to the deacon. After seeing so many immortal stones, the deacon's eyes lit up. As the saying went, "Money makes the world go round," this saying was very reasonable. For example, after seeing so many immortal stones, the deacon could not suppress the greed in his heart even though he knew that he had violated some taboo. He kept the immortal stones and pondered for a while, as if he was thinking about how to tell Lin Feng about the lunar ancient emperor's lineage. Chapter 56-53. About 50 years ago, many ancient demons appeared and came to this star area. They came here because they were suppressed by the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm. Those ancient demons hated the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm, so they wanted to take revenge on the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm. But the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm had been dead for many years, so they couldn't find him. So they started to take revenge on the descendants of the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm. Among the descendants of the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm, there was an extremely strong cultivator, the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm. He was the second ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm. That strong cultivator is terrifyingly strong, but he's old and weak. His cultivation level has dropped a lot. Why are so many ancient demons looking for him? Even though he managed to stop the attacks of the ancient demons for the time being, there were too many of them. The ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm didn't have enough strength to deal with the ancient demons. The ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm didn't have enough people to help him. If he had, he might have been able to deal with the ancient demons, but without help, it was too difficult for him to deal with so many ancient demons. At that moment, something even worse happened. The Kinwu people and the ancient emperor of the Great Een Ancient Realm had a grudge against each other. I don't know the details, but I do know that they had a grudge against each other. The Kinwu people knew that the ancient demons were attacking the ancient emperor of the great ancient realm, so the Kinwu people found the ancient demons and joined forces with them to deal with the cultivators of the ancient emperor of the great ancient realm. With the help of the Golden Crows, the ancient emperor of the great ancient realm had a hard time. That's why the ancient emperor of the great ancient realm suffered heavy losses. Fortunately, the ancient emperor of the great ancient realm was there to protect the ancestral land. But at that moment, the ancient demons and the Kinwu people colluded with the cultivators of the Lost Epic Era. With the help of the cultivators of the Lost Epic Era, the ancient demons and the ancient emperor of the great ancient realm were destroyed. The deacon said. Lin Feng's face suddenly became very gloomy. He suddenly thought of the information he saw in the ancient devil's memory. The ancient devil seemed to be planning something, but the specific memory was covered by a strange energy. So, Lin Feng didn't know what they were planning. From the looks of it, the ancient demons were planning to deal with the ancient demon emperor's bloodline. He wondered how little Yao Yao was doing now. Could it be that she had also fallen in the war of extermination? Lin Feng looked at the deacon and asked, "Is everyone from the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline dead?" The deacon said, "I'm not too sure about this either. After all, I've only heard about it from rumors. Cultivators at my level don't have access to these things. However, I heard about something 2 years ago. Some cultivators from the extreme ancient emperor's bloodline managed to escape, but I don't know where they went." "No news at all?" Lin Feng frowned and asked. The deacon said, "Indeed, there's no news. However, the ancient demons, the Kinwu people, and the Lost Epic Era used a special method to seal the void outside the Great world. If the cultivators from the ancient emperor's bloodline tried to escape, they would be sensed. So, I'm guessing that if there are still people from the ancient emperor's bloodline alive, they should still be in the Great world. However, the Great world is vast and boundless. It's very difficult to find their exact location. The Kinwu people, the Lost Epic Era, and the ancient demons have been searching for the survivors of the ancient emperor's bloodline. Perhaps they know something. It's because of these 3 great powers that the ancient emperor's bloodline became a taboo topic. Basically, no one dares to talk about it. That's all I know." Lin Feng asked, "What kind of experts are there in these 3 bloodlines?" "They all seem to have cultivators who are at the peak of the Saint Plane. A few years ago, some cultivators who have surpassed the Saint Plane appeared in the Great world, but we don't know which branch they belong to. They might have already left the Great world, but we don't know if they're from that place." Lin Feng nodded. He probably wouldn't be able to get any more information from this deacon, and so, he left the trading company with the Poison Group and the Evil Zune Saint. Lin Feng's expression was very gloomy. He had wanted to go and see little Yao Yao. But who would have thought that the ancient emperor's bloodline would meet with such a calamity? The ancient emperor's bloodline was the bloodline of the human race's ancient saint emperor. In the past, the ancient emperor had tried to suppress the ancient demons and cause trouble for the human race. In the end, he had died in battle. But after the ancient emperor's death, his descendants had suffered such a tragic fate. Lin Feng couldn't accept this. This matter made Lin Feng extremely angry. These ancient demons and the lost races of the Epic and the Kinwu people who got involved, they really deserve to die. Lin Feng said. Duzu asked, "What do you plan to do next, young master?" Lin Feng took a deep breath and said, "I plan to investigate this matter again and see if I can find any clues." In fact, Lin Feng knew that it wouldn't be easy to find any clues. After all, Lin Feng had just arrived in the Great world, and he was unfamiliar with everything here. He didn't have any connections to gather any important information. But no matter how slim the chances were, Lin Feng wouldn't give up. "I choked on my Chi-Chi novel." This island was called Myriad Stars Island, and there were many trading companies. Lin Feng went to all the trading companies to gather information, but he didn't get much. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel depressed. One day, Duzu came back excitedly from outside and brought Lin Feng an important piece of news. He said that a Kinwu people cultivator had come to the island. The Kinwu people seemed to have an extraordinary identity because the Myriad Stars Island's island master had personally gone to welcome the Kinwu people. After hearing this news, Lin Feng's face lit up. The Kinwu people, the lost races of the Epoch, and the ancient demons had become the masters of the great Een world in name. These three forces controlled the great Een world. They had spies all over the great Een world. Therefore, even if these three forces hadn't found the exact location of the ancient emperor's bloodline, they still had some information. But they must have some information about the ancient emperor's bloodline. Chapter 56-54. This person is a breakthrough, Lin Feng said coldly. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Du Zhu and heretical sovereign sage knew what Lin Feng was planning. After all, they had followed Lin Feng for a long time and could read his mind. Lin Feng only needed to say one word or glance to know what Lin Feng was thinking. Lin Feng clearly wanted to make a move on that cultivator from the Qinwu people. Du Zhu asked, "Young lord, when do you plan to make a move?" "Today." Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. Today, the island lord's mansion was very lively. It was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. In the sea region, many high-level cultivators from various clans and powers came to participate in this gathering. This gathering was to welcome the 8 young lords of the Qinwu people. The 8 young lords of the Qinwu people were the 8th son of the Qinwu people's patriarch. Recently, he had been appointed as the overseer of the Western Sea. Of course, this was a position that was very popular. After all, the Western Sea was very large and had all kinds of resources. As the overseer, the various powers would take out all kinds of treasures to show their filial piety to him. Myriad Star Islands was the largest gathering place of cultivators in the Western Sea. The Myriad Star Island Lord was one of the first people to follow the 8 young lords. Now that he had risen with the 8 young lords, he was the Island Lord of Myriad Star Islands. Now that the 8 young lords were here, the higher-ups of the various powers would naturally try their best to curry favor with them. If they could get closer to the 8 young lords, then it would be very beneficial for them. The major forces were very clear about this. Therefore, when the higher-ups of these forces came to welcome the 8 young lords, they brought a lot of gifts. In addition to all kinds of gifts, they also brought a lot of beauties. This was because they knew that the 8 young lords were lustful. He loved to collect all kinds of beauties. These people knew how to cater to his tastes. The hall was bustling with noise and excitement. Dozens of beautiful dancers were dancing gracefully. Their graceful and enchanting dance was truly pleasing to the eyes. The Myriad Star Island Lord stood up and said, "Congratulations to the young lord for taking control of the Western Sea. From now on, all the powers in the Western Sea are willing to follow the young lord's lead." This person was originally one of the 8 young lords' men. Now that they had expressed their stance, they represented all the factions that had come this time. After all, most of the factions had just pledged their allegiance to the 8 young masters. These factions knew the relationship between the Myriad Star Island Lord and the 8 young masters, so they asked the Myriad Star Island Lord to represent everyone and announced that many factions were willing to pledge their allegiance to the 8 young masters. The higher-ups of the various powers all stood up and bowed to the 8 young lords. "I already know your intentions. Don't worry, since you've submitted to me, I won't mistreat you," the 8th prince said with a smile. For example, the sons were that in the future, one of these people would definitely inherit the position of the chief of the Golden Crow clan. But it was hard to say who it would be. Now that they had received their territory, the Golden Crow clan leader wanted to train his sons and see who had the qualifications to take over the position of clan leader. The 8 young lords were one of the more outstanding ones among the sons of the Qinwu people's chief. Therefore, they had a chance to take over the position of the chief in the future. At this moment, if they pledged their allegiance to the 8 young lords, they would be able to take over the position of the Qinwu people's chief. At that time, the status of the various powers would naturally rise. They might even be able to expand their powers to the inland world instead of staying overseas. This was something that the various powers hoped to see. Just as the higher-ups of these powers were imagining the beautiful future, 3 cultivators walked in. "Who are you people? How dare you trespass here? Do you know what day it is today? Do you not want to live anymore?" After seeing the 3 people who came uninvited, a cultivator immediately scolded. The 3 people who had arrived were naturally Lin Feng and the 2 others. They had taken care of the guards outside and easily entered the Great Hall. You don't know the meaning of death." Du Zhu sneered and waved his hand. An invisible poisonous gas filled the air. The poisonous gas directly wrapped around the cultivator who spoke. Following that, the cultivator let out an incomparably shrill scream. After that scream, his body was instantly corroded into a skeleton. After seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. What a terrifying method. Silently killing people. It really gave people a creepy feeling. It was no wonder that these people were frightened. Du Zhu's method was indeed powerful. Du Zhu's control of poison was unparalleled. Others might not even know what was going on, but they might have already been killed by Du Zhu's poison. Everyone, today's matter has nothing to do with you. Our young lord is here to look for the Qinwu people's 8 young lords. Du Zhu said. The Qinwu people's 8 young lords' expression suddenly darkened. He asked, "Who are you?" Lin Feng glanced at the 8 young lords indifferently. He did not answer the question. Instead, he asked indifferently, "Do you know anything about the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline?" After hearing Lin Feng's question, the 8 young lords' expression changed. The Qinwu people's 8 young lords already knew who Lin Feng was. He guessed that Lin Feng was very likely a friend of the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline. His guess was not wrong. The 8 young lords' expression turned grim. If they could capture Lin Feng, they might be able to use Lin Feng as bait to lure the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline out. Then, they would be able to capture the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline in one fell swoop. Furthermore, he would be able to rely on this matter to make a monstrous contribution. At that time, they would be able to surpass all their brothers. Who would be able to stop them from becoming the first successor? The 8 young lords' wishful thinking was extremely good. The 8 young lords said in a deep voice, "These people are the remnants of the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline. Capture them and force the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline out. If we can use this opportunity to eliminate the lunar ancient emperor's bloodline, everyone will have made great contributions. When that time comes, it will be easy for you to get whatever rewards you want." After hearing the 8 young lords' words, many people's eyes suddenly lit up. Although the 3 people who had just spoken were extraordinary, there were only 3 of them. On the other hand, there were more than 200 people on the Qinwu people's side. Moreover, they were all high-ranking members of the various factions. With so many experts working together, how could they not be able to deal with 3 people? Of course, they did not think that way. They were still very confident in themselves. More than 200 cultivators stood up and surrounded Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the heretic diviner saint. Chapter 56-55. Although these people's cultivation was quite good, they were nothing in Lin Feng's eyes. They were just a motley crew. Lin Feng couldn't even be bothered to deal with them. These people could be left to Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint. Lin Feng looked at Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint and said, "Get rid of them." "Yes, young master." The 2 of them replied. Then, Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint attacked. A large amount of poison surged out of Du Zhu's body and quickly rushed towards the cultivators. On the other hand, a powerful corpse chi surged out of the heretic sovereign saint's body and evolved into many corpse demons. These corpse demons directly attacked the group of cultivators. Under the attack of the poison and the corpse demons, many cultivators couldn't resist at all. They died on the spot. "Hurry up and take the antidote," someone said in a low voice. These people didn't dare to hesitate and quickly took the antidote. However, even if they took the antidote, they couldn't completely neutralize Du Zhu's poison. Du Zhu's poison was just too terrifying. Coupled with the corpse demon's attacks, the cultivators continued to die. "Spare us, spare us, spare us, we don't want to die." Soon, some people began to beg for mercy because they realized that they were no match for these 2 people. Now, Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint were extremely terrifying figures. After all, they had broken through to the Dao Immortal Realm and weren't ordinary Dao Immortal Realm cultivators. They had extremely powerful ultimate moves, such as Du Zhu's poison and the corpse demon army that the heretic sovereign saint summoned. These were their respective ultimate moves. Although these people were quite strong, and some of them had even reached the true immortal realm, they were still very strong. But even if their realms were higher than Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint, it was still very difficult for them to withstand the attacks of Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint. Cultivators with lower realms couldn't hold on for long under the attacks of Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint. Those with higher realms could still hold on for a while, but they still couldn't escape death. Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint naturally ignored these people's pleas. They started a massacre. Cultivators were constantly being killed. The eighth young master's face immediately became extremely ugly when he saw this. These were all his followers. If they died, the world of the West Sea would definitely descend into chaos. If the world of the West Sea fell into chaos, it would mean that he was useless as the person in charge of the West Sea. Once his father found out about this, the eighth young master knew that he would never have the chance to become the patriarch of the Golden Crow clan in the future. Therefore, the eighth young master was extremely angry. He roared, "You're all courting death." With that said, a sun appeared from his body. Of course, it wasn't a real sun. It was just a sun formed by a divine ability. But even so, it was still unimaginably terrifying. The sun shot out an endless amount of divine sunlight. The divine sunlight illuminated the land as if it could destroy everything. The resplendent light of the sun vaporized a large amount of poison. Moreover, the divine sunlight was able to restrain creatures like ghosts. The evil dominator saint belonged to the evil ghost category. The corpse devil summoned by the evil dominator saint suffered great damage from the sun's attack. The bodies of the corpse demons started to burn, and many of them were burned to ashes on the spot. The Qinwu people's eighth young master was very strong. Lin Feng roughly sensed his cultivation. He should be in the golden immortal realm. In addition, he was a member of the Qinwu people's royal family. His bloodline was powerful, so his talent was naturally very terrifying. So his battle power was definitely very strong. However, in front of Lin Feng, he was far too lacking. Seeing the eighth young master's power, the cultivators who joined the Qinwu people's eighth young master were very excited. Many of them shouted, "Young master's divine ability is invincible. Young master's divine ability is invincible." The Golden Crow clan's eighth young noble couldn't help but reveal a smug smile. He was naturally very satisfied with the combat strength he had displayed. The Qinwu people's eighth young master controlled the sun to attack Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint. Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint worked together to attack the sun. However, they were still sent flying by the sun. Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint's expressions became very unsightly. The Qinwu people's eighth young master said coldly, "You lowly creatures dare to behave so atrociously here? You don't know life from death. This young master will capture you first. Once the people from the ancient emperor's bloodline are lured out, this young master will definitely torture you. When the time comes, you will have a taste of what it means to live a life worse than death." Lin Feng sneered after hearing the Qinwu people's eighth young master's words. The Qinwu people's eighth young master naturally knew that Lin Feng was the master among the three of them. So, he controlled the sun to attack Lin Feng. His face was filled with indifference. In his eyes, a mere young human cultivator was nothing. Compared to him, they were worlds apart. The sun quickly flew in front of Lin Feng and produced a loud rumbling sound. The void seemed to be on the verge of shattering. The sun fell from the sky and ruthlessly suppressed Lin Feng. Just as it was about to crush Lin Feng threw a punch at the sun. A loud bang was heard. The sun formed by the Qinwu people's eighth young master was directly shattered by Lin Feng's punch. The Qinwu people's eighth young master was horrified when he saw this. He did not expect Lin Feng to be so terrifying. He had underestimated Lin Feng's cultivation. Such powerful strength was simply not something he could contend against. With that thought in mind, the Qinwu people's eighth young master did not dare to stay any longer. He immediately turned around and fled outside. How could Lin Feng let the Qinwu people's eighth young master escape? Lin Feng slapped the Qinwu people's eighth young master across the void. The Qinwu people's eighth young master was directly sent flying. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was directly sent flying and fell heavily to the ground. All the meridians in his body were broken by Lin Feng's palm. P.S. The new book has more than 400,000 words. Brothers, go and collect it. Go and read Old Mantu's new book. It's the prequel of the Archean Dragonesque elephant spell. It's quite interesting. Thank you. End of chapter. Chapter 56. You actually crippled me. You'll die a horrible death. I curse you to die a horrible death. The 8th prince's venomous voice sounded out. He glared at Lin Feng viciously. The 8th prince of the Qinwu people had become a cripple in the blink of an eye. This was a huge blow, and the 8th prince of the Qinwu people almost went crazy. He wanted to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces, but he didn't have the ability to do so. He could only turn his boundless hatred towards Lin Feng into curses towards Lin Feng. You won't have a good ending. You'll die a horrible death. Your fate will be 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times worse than mine. Not just you, but your family, your friends, your family, and everyone you know will die without a burial ground. The 8th prince of the Qinwu people continuously cursed Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at the 8th high official icily. Your curses are useless against me. If you want to die quickly, you better answer my questions. Otherwise, I have 1,000 ways to make you suffer so much that you wish you were dead, said the 8th high official icily. The 8th prince of the Qinwu people said coldly, I won't say anything. Is that so? Lin Feng's expression suddenly became cold. He immediately took out the heaven fire. The heaven fire flew into the mind of the Golden Crow young master and then enveloped his soul. The heaven fire burned fiercely and incinerated the soul of the Golden Crow young master. Under Lin Feng's control, the heavenly flame didn't burn the Qinwu people's soul to ashes. However, it did cause severe damage to the Qinwu people's soul. His soul was tortured, and it was worse than death. Not many people could withstand it. The 8th prince of the Qinwu people was tortured to the point that it was worse than death. The incomparably mournful screams were even more ear-piercing than the cries of malicious ghosts. His body kept rolling and twitching. The rest of the people looked at this scene in horror. At this moment, the rest of the cultivators were extremely pale. Even the 8 princes of the Qinwu people had ended up in such a miserable state. Naturally, they wouldn't have a good ending. However, it was useless for them to beg for mercy. Therefore, they wanted to break out of the encirclement, but it was very difficult to do so. Du Zhu and the evil dominator Holy Sun joined forces and quickly killed all the cultivators. These people were basically the upper echelons of the various major forces in the West Sea world. Many of them were even the leaders of those forces. The impact of their deaths on the forces they belonged to was too great. It was foreseeable that the Western Sea world would fall into turmoil. However, Lin Feng did not care about that. The West Sea world falling into chaos had nothing to do with Lin Feng. Lin Feng was only concerned about where the lineage of the great and ancient emperor was and how little Yao Yao was doing. After seeing those people being killed, the 8 princes of the Qinwu people couldn't help but feel sad. Not long ago, he was still in high spirits. However, in the blink of an eye, he had ended up in such a state. The Qinwu people couldn't accept what had happened. But now, what was done could not be undone. Moreover, the 8 princes of the Qinwu people had been tortured by Lin Feng's heavenly flames. Therefore, the 8 princes of the Qinwu people couldn't think of anything else. As long as this pain could end quickly, he would be thankful. I'll tell you everything. Don't torture me anymore. The 8 princes of the Qinwu people begged. After hearing the pleas of the 8 princes of the Qinwu people, Lin Feng withdrew his heavenly flames. He coldly looked at the 8 princes of the Qinwu people and said, if we had cooperated earlier, we wouldn't have had to suffer so much. The 8 princes of the Qinwu people collapsed on the ground, his body still twitching. However, Lin Feng didn't pity him. If he pitied him, who would pity the lineage of the great and ancient emperor? Lin Feng coldly looked at the 8 princes of the Qinwu people and asked, do you know anything about the great and ancient emperor's lineage? The 8 princes of the Qinwu people replied, I don't know much about the great and ancient emperor's lineage. Lin Feng said, tell me what you know. In truth, Lin Feng could have soul-searched the 8 princes, but Lin Feng felt that there might be a powerful restriction in the 8 princes' soul, so he didn't do so. The 8 princes of the Qinwu people pondered for a moment before saying, In the depths of the great ancient forest, there seems to be the whereabouts of the great ancient emperor's lineage. However, I can't be sure because I wasn't involved in this matter before. I heard this information from a member of the Kinwu people. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Where is the great ancient forest? Lin Feng asked. The 8 princes of the Kinwu people said, after reaching the mainland, keep heading east. When you see an endless mountain forest, that place is the great ancient forest. Lin Feng nodded and killed the 8 princes of the Kinwu people with a single palm strike. They didn't stay there for long. The 3 of them quickly left the area and flew towards the mainland. Very soon, a shocking piece of news quickly spread throughout the Great realm. The 8 princes of the Kinwu people, as well as the higher-ups of the various large organizations in the West Sea world, had all been killed when they were welcoming the 8 princes of the Kinwu people. The entire Great realm was in an uproar. One had to know that the Kinwu people were one of the leaders of the Great realm. The 8 princes of the Kinwu people were the sons of the clan leader of the Kinwu people. How noble was their status! Someone had actually dared to attack the 8 princes of the Kinwu people. It was unbelievable. Countless people were discussing this matter. Many people suspected that the person who had attacked the 8 princes of the great ancient emperor's lineage. Some people believed that the great ancient emperor's lineage wouldn't be destroyed so easily. There should still be survivors. However, very soon, some people felt that this guess wasn't correct. Many people believed that the great ancient emperor's lineage still had some survivors. Those survivors must still be recuperating and wouldn't come out easily. After all, if they came out, they might die a horrible death and expose the location of the others. Just as the outside world was discussing this matter, the higher-ups of the Kinwu people were even more furious. No matter who had killed the 8 princes of the Kinwu people, this matter was a provocation to the Kinwu people. Therefore, the higher-ups of the Kinwu people were furious. They sent many experts to investigate this matter. Naturally, it was impossible for this matter not to be exposed. Very soon, the news spread. It was said that the people who had killed the 8 princes of the Kinwu people were 3 cultivators. The 3 cultivators looked very unfamiliar and didn't seem to be from the Great realm. When this news spread, countless people were puzzled. Since they weren't from the Great realm, why would they kill the 8 princes of the Kinwu people? Could it be that they had a grudge against the 8 princes of the Kinwu people? However, no matter what the reason was, everyone knew that the Kinwu people would definitely not let this matter rest. End of chapter. Chapter 56-57. Taiyin Ancient City was one of the top 10 ancient cities in the Taiyin Great World. Taiyin Ancient City was an extremely lively and prosperous ancient city. It was controlled by the Taiyin Ancient Emperor's bloodline back then. Although Taiyin Ancient City had experienced a great battle 50 years ago, over the past 50 years, Taiyin Ancient City had regained its former prosperity. Of course, the cultivators from the Taiyin Ancient Emperor's bloodline who were stationed in Taiyin Ancient City back then were only a portion of them. Their ancestral land was not in Taiyin Ancient City. Most of the cultivators who were stationed in Taiyin Ancient City back then had died in the Great Battle back then. Only a small portion of them had managed to escape. Taiyin Ancient City was now the territory of the Kinwu people, the lost tribe of the Embark, and the ancient demon clan. All 3 forces had experts guarding Taiyin Ancient City. Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the evil dominator Holy Sage arrived at Taiyin Ancient City. This place was very close to the Taiyin Ancient Forest. After arriving, Lin Feng and the rest rested for a day before entering the Taiyin Ancient Forest to find out more about the Taiyin Ancient Emperor's bloodline. However, they stayed in the Taiyin Ancient Forest for more than a month, but did not find out anything about the Taiyin Ancient Emperor's bloodline. They did not know if the Taiyin Ancient Emperor's bloodline was really hidden in the Taiyin Ancient Forest. Hence, Lin Feng and the rest returned to Taiyin Ancient City. They planned to find out more about the Taiyin Ancient City. They wanted to see if there was any news about the Taiyin Ancient Emperor's bloodline. Since the Taiyin Ancient Emperor's bloodline was a taboo topic, especially among the Kinwu people, the lost tribe of the Embark, and the ancient demon clan, many businesses did not dare to sell any information easily. However, there were still businesses who took the risk. After all, Lin Feng had paid them enough. Lin Feng did find out some information. It was said that many experts from the Qinwu people, the ancient demon clan, and the lost tribe of the epoch had come here. They had probably received some important information and were about to launch a big operation. These trading companies were unable to obtain any more information. Lin Feng could not help but frown. He naturally hoped that nothing would happen to the great ancient emperor's bloodline, especially little Yao Yao. Lin Feng and the other two temporarily stayed in extreme ancient city. Lin Feng thought that if the Qinwu people and other forces found out about the lineage of the great ancient emperor, they would be able to do so. Perhaps they would make a move soon. At that time, if he kept an eye on them, he might be able to find some clues. That night, a great battle broke out in extreme ancient city. More than a dozen cultivators were besieged by many people. There were Qinwu people, lost races of the epoch, and cultivators from the ancient demon clan. There was one cultivator from each of the three clans, while the rest were cultivators who had sided with them. More than 10 cultivators suffered heavy casualties, and only one managed to escape in the end. The battle was not particularly far away from Lin Feng's residence. Therefore, Lin Feng could sense the battle. He stood in the courtyard and looked into the distance. Soon, Lin Feng saw an injured cultivator flying over from afar. Many people were chasing after him. When the injured cultivator passed by Lin Feng's courtyard, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He threw something down and quickly fled into the distance. Lin Feng took a look at the item and realized that it was a mysterious seal with the word Extreme In written on it. It was written in ancient divine language. He wondered if it was a treasure. After seeing the seal, Lin Feng was extremely shocked. Could that cultivator be a cultivator from the great ancient emperor's bloodline? Lin Feng guessed that the cultivator thought that he was going to die. Therefore, he did not want the inheritance of the great ancient emperor to fall into the hands of the Qinwu people, the lost races of the epoch, or the ancient demon clan. Therefore, when the cultivator flew over, he saw Zhou Donghuang standing in the courtyard. Since Zhou Donghuang happened to be a human cultivator, he handed the seal to Zhou Donghuang. Then, he led the others in another direction. You can't run away. The Qinwu people looked coldly at the fleeing cultivator. The fleeing cultivator's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with despair. Indeed, he was in a situation where he would definitely die. He could not run away. However, even if he could not run away, he would never give up. However, he was getting slower and slower, and soon, those people caught up with him. All kinds of attacks were launched at him. The cultivator's eyes were filled with despair. At this moment, a figure appeared beside him. The figure drew a line in the void with both hands. Suddenly, a huge energy shield appeared and blocked the opponent's attack. The cultivator looked at the person who attacked him. He was shocked to find that the person who attacked him was the cultivator who was standing in the courtyard. Run, the cultivator said in a low voice. He knew how terrifying those people were. Moreover, there were definitely experts from the Qinwu people, the lost races of the epoch, and the ancient demon clan watching them. Therefore, if he attacked them, he would not have any chance of winning. Even though Lin Feng had shown his extraordinary strength, he was still very strong. However, no matter how strong Lin Feng was, he could not possibly fight against so many experts. Run? You can't escape. A cultivator from the lost races of the epoch said coldly. The cultivator from the ancient demon clan said coldly, Don't kill them now. Capture them alive. Once we find the whereabouts of the other descendants of the ancient emperor, we'll kill them all. Yes, sir. The other cultivators answered in unison. Then, a large group of cultivators charged at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He flicked his finger, and dense sword chi flew out. The sword chi quickly attacked the group of cultivators who surrounded them. Chapter 56-58. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Numerous ripping sounds could be heard as dozens of cultivators who had surrounded Lin Feng were instantly torn apart by the sword chi that Lin Feng had unleashed. They all died on the spot. Seeing this, the cultivator beside Lin Feng was extremely shocked. Lin Feng was such a young cultivator, yet he was able to display such terrifying strength. This was something that he had never expected. Seeing how terrifying Lin Feng was, this cultivator's face was filled with shock and astonishment. It was really hard to imagine that such a young person could have such terrifying battle strength. He didn't know how he cultivated. At this moment, Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint flew over from afar. Seeing Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint flying over, Lin Feng couldn't be bothered to attack the remaining 3 cultivators. "Get rid of them," Lin Feng said.
Yes.
After receiving Lin Feng's order, Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint immediately attacked the remaining 3 cultivators. The remaining 3 cultivators were from the Qinwu people, the ancient demon clan, and the lost race of the Epoch. Their strength was quite terrifying. Moreover, each of them had some powerful sacred arts that had been passed down from their respective clans. Once they used those sacred arts, they definitely couldn't be underestimated. However, although they were quite strong, they were only at the true immortal realm. 2 of them were at the first heaven of the true immortal realm, the virtual immortal realm. The other one was at the Tao immortal realm. Therefore, their cultivation level was similar to Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint. However, when they really fought, they were slightly weaker than Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint. This was because Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign saint had more powerful techniques than the 3 of them. Not long after, the cultivator from the Qinwu people was killed. The ancient demon clan cultivator said angrily, "Who are you people? How dare you meddle in other people's business? Do you know the consequences of offending the 3 major powers in the Great Yin world?" Lin Feng sneered. "Haven't many people been talking about us recently? Do you know who we are now?" After hearing Lin Feng's words, the ancient demon clan cultivators and the lost race of the Epoch looked at Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the heretic sovereign saint. They suddenly thought of the matter that had happened some time ago. The 8 princes of the Qinwu people, as well as many experts of the outer race of the outer seas world, had been killed. It had been a hot topic of discussion recently. Although some time had passed, there were still some people talking about it, but they still couldn't find any trace of them. He didn't think that these 3 people would actually come to ancient Taiyin City. How audacious of him, Obviously, he had also heard about the 8 princes of the Qinwu people being killed. When he had heard the news, he had been overjoyed. He hadn't expected to see the people who had killed the 8 princes of the Qinwu people here today. Moreover, he had been saved by them. In fact, the cultivator was very confused. He didn't know who Lin Feng and the others were. He also didn't know why Lin Feng had killed the 8 princes of the Qinwu people. Regardless of who Lin Feng and the others were, the cultivator knew that Lin Feng was their friend and not their enemy. Otherwise, Lin Feng wouldn't have come to save him. Lin Feng wouldn't have killed the 8 princes of the Qinwu people. The cultivator had a lot of questions that he wanted to ask Lin Feng. However, he also knew that now wasn't the time to ask Lin Feng. It wouldn't be too late to ask Lin Feng after the crisis was over. After the ancient demon clan cultivator and the epic lost race cultivator found out about Lin Feng and the others' identities, their expressions became extremely ugly. They also knew that Lin Feng and the other 2 were extremely terrifying, so they wanted to escape. However, Du Zhu and the evil sovereign saint didn't give them a chance to escape. Du Zhu and the evil sovereign saint each locked onto a person. Then, the 2 of them erupted with extremely powerful combat strength and directly killed the cultivator they had locked onto. At this moment, a terrifying aura came from afar. The Qinwu people, the ancient demon clan, and the epic lost race cultivators saw the situation here and quickly rushed over. Lin Feng said, "We can't stay here for long. Let's leave quickly." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng waved his hand and a powerful magic power surged out and enveloped the 3 of them. Then, Lin Feng used a void teleportation technique and quickly disappeared without a trace. By the time the other cultivators rushed over, Lin Feng and the others had already disappeared without a trace. Damn it! Damn it! Investigate! We must find out who the other party is." The experts who flew over were extremely angry. One by one, they roared angrily. When Lin Feng and the others reappeared, they were already outside the city. They entered the ancient lunar forest and found a hidden cave to let the cultivator recover. His injuries weren't light. Although they had some questions to ask him, they had to wait until his body recovered. About a day had passed. The cultivator's injuries were about 60 to 70% healed. When he opened his eyes and saw Lin Feng and the others, he stood up and cupped his fists at Lin Feng. "Thank you for saving me, young master. If not for you, I would have died tragically at the hands of those bastards." Lin Feng said, "You're welcome." After pausing for a moment, Lin Feng asked, "You should be from the ancient emperor's bloodline, right?" The cultivator nodded and said, "That's right. I am from the ancient emperor's bloodline. My name is Sikongyang. How should I address you, young master?" Lin Feng said, "My name is Lin Feng." Sikongyang was obviously unfamiliar with the name Lin Feng. He was sure of it. He had never heard of such a powerful person before. He also didn't know why Lin Feng would help him. Therefore, Sikongyang asked, "Young master, are you related to the ancient emperor's bloodline?" Lin Feng nodded and said, "Do you know little Yao Yao?" Sikongyang was slightly taken aback and said, "Young master, are you talking about Princess Yao Yao?" Lin Feng nodded and said, "Yes. Little Yao Yao is the daughter of the ancient emperor. She should be your Princess Yao Yao. Back then, I saved little Yao Yao in the exiled world. Later, some experts from your clan went to the exiled world and took little Yao Yao away. So young master is Princess Yao Yao's savior. My apologies." Sikongyang cupped his fists again and said. Lin Feng asked, "How is little Yao Yao now?" Chapter 56-59. Sikongyang said, "Princess Yao Yao has always been in seclusion in the ancestral land. Her cultivation increased very quickly. 50 years ago, when I returned to the ancestral land, I saw Princess Yao Yao. Later, there was a riot, and we lost contact with the people of the ancestral land. Since then, I haven't seen Princess Yao Yao again." Lin Feng frowned and said, "So you're saying that you're the cultivators who were stationed in ancient Tine City back then?" Sikongyang nodded and said, "Yes, we were the cultivators stationed in ancient Tine City back then. After that battle, most of us died. Only a few managed to escape. We sneaked into the ancestral land and found that it had already fallen. It was a ruin. We knew that something had happened to the ancestral land. Later on, we kept trying to contact the ancestral land, but we couldn't get in touch with them." Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. He had thought that he would be able to find some clues, but now they had been cut off. Sikongyang said, "Lin Gongzi, don't worry about it. This time, we took the risk of entering ancient Tine City to get the seal. We want to use the seal to find where the cultivators of the ancestral land are hiding." Hearing this, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Lin Feng said, "You're saying that the seal can sense their location?" Sikongyang hurriedly nodded and said, "That's right. Because the lunar treasure seal is divided into two parts, the two parts can sense each other. As long as you use a special method to activate this lunar treasure seal, you can try to sense the other lunar treasure seal. The lunar seal is the most precious treasure of my clan. Therefore, when the people of the ancestral land escaped, they must have taken it with them. The lunar seal should be with the people of the ancestral land. Therefore, as long as we can sense the chi of the lunar seal, we should be able to find them." Lin Feng smiled. This was a blessing in disguise. Lin Feng asked, "How many cultivators escaped from ancient Tine City back then?" "About 300. Sikongyang said, "Where are you hiding?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "We're hiding in an underground crevice." "I'll bring you there now," Sikongyang said. Lin Feng nodded. Then, they headed into the depths of the ancient lunar forest. In the end, they entered an ancient forest shrouded in darkness. That area was extremely dangerous, emitting an incomparably gloomy aura. There were powerful restrictions everywhere. Entering this place, if one did not have any powerful means or did not know the route, it would be very easy for one to suffer a calamity. Sikongyang was leading Lin Feng and the two others through the forest at full speed. Obviously, Sikongyang had a map that would allow him to freely enter and exit this dangerous place. Lin Feng said, "The outside world has been saying that the Qinwu people and other forces have some information about the ancient emperor of the ancient lunar forest. Could it be that the information they have is actually related to you and not the cultivators of the ancestral land?" Sikongyang nodded and said, "That's right. They have indeed received information about us. A few years ago, We weren't hiding in this place. We were hiding in another place, but they seem to have found out where we were hiding. Then, we quickly moved to another place. All these years, they have been looking for us. Although they don't know our exact location, they should know the general area. Lin Feng said, "We can't stay here for long. After all, there are many Kinwu people, the ancient demons, and the lost races of the epic here. They have the advantage in numbers, and you have fewer cultivators here. You can't withstand the torment of a big battle. If another battle breaks out, you will lose a lot of people. When the time comes, you might even be wiped out. We have to find a time to leave this place." Si Kongyang said, "The world is so big, there's nowhere to hide. I hope we can find the cultivators of the ancestral land this time, and meet up with them to deal with this crisis." Under Si Kongyang's lead, Lin Feng and the other two arrived at the place where the cultivators of the ancient lunar forest were hiding. When they arrived, they saw the survivors of the Taiyan ancient emperor's lineage. Many of them were crippled. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh and pity them. When these people saw Lin Feng's group, they acted as if they were facing a great enemy. After all, they were hiding everywhere and could be discovered by the Kinwu people at any time. If they were discovered, it would be a disaster. Therefore, they were very cautious and vigilant against outside cultivators. An old man walked out. He was the great elder of the ancient lunar forest. When he saw Si Kongyang, the old man asked, "Are you the only one who came back?" "Yes, I'm the only one who came back. The others have died in ancient lunar city," Si Kongyang said. After hearing Si Kongyang's words, many people in the crowd started crying. There weren't many people left in the ancient lunar forest. Now that more than 10 people had died, they were in great pain. The old man couldn't help but sigh and ask, "Who are they?" Si Kongyang said, "Great elder, some time ago, the 8 young masters of the Kinwu people were killed by this young master." After hearing Si Kongyang's words, the great elder's face suddenly showed a shocked expression. The rest of the people also showed extremely shocked expressions. When this news spread among their tribe, it could be said to be one of the few pieces of good news for them. At that time, the entire clan was extremely excited. They didn't expect that the person who killed the 8 young masters of the Kinwu people would follow Si Kongyang here. Si Kongyang continued, "Not only did this young master kill the 8 young masters of the Kinwu people, but he also has a deep relationship with the ancient lunar forest. This young master is the one who saved Princess Yao Yao in the exile world. So it's Princess Yao Yao's savior. Thank you for your kindness, young master." The great elder cupped his fists and said. Lin Feng said, "There's no need to be so polite, great elder. I hope you can find the cultivators of the ancestral land. I hope little Yao Yao is fine." After saying that, Lin Feng took out the lunar treasured seal. When the great elder saw the lunar treasured seal, he became excited and said, "Lin Gongzi, don't worry. With the lunar treasured seal, we'll definitely be able to find them." Chapter 56-60. If he wanted the 2 pieces of the seal to resonate with each other, he would need a special secret technique. And at this very moment, the great elder needed to use these secret techniques to activate the lunar treasure seal. The great elder said, "If you want to use this secret technique, you will need to set up an altar. I will go set up the altar now." Lin Feng nodded and said, "Okay." The great elder went to set up the altar, and Lin Feng followed him. Setting up the altar wasn't particularly troublesome. After the great elder finished setting up the altar, the great elder placed the lunar treasured seal on the table. Then, the great elder began to chant an incantation. It was a very ancient language, and Lin Feng didn't understand what it meant. As the great elder chanted the incantation, a very special energy surged out. The special energy was all integrated into the great elder's seal. After the seal absorbed the special energy, a powerful wave of energy surged out. The moon treasure imprint released a powerful qi. When Lin Feng sensed that qi, he was astonished. The moon treasure imprint was an incredible treasure. Moreover, there were 2 pieces of the seal. If the 2 pieces of the seal could form a connection, the power of the seal would be incomparably terrifying. Everyone gathered around and watched the great elder activate the seal. They all hoped that they could quickly reunite with the people of the ancestral land. Previously, because they didn't have the Tian treasured seal, they couldn't find out where the people of the ancestral land were hiding even though they had inquired for a long time. Now that they had taken the risk to obtain the Great Elder's seal, they saw hope. After about half an hour, the Great Elder finally stopped chanting the incantation. After that, the Great Elder directly sat down on the ground. His forehead was covered in sweat. It seemed that activating the lunar treasured seal consumed a lot of energy for the Great Elder. Otherwise, the Great Elder would not be so exhausted. Lin Feng hastily walked up to the Great Elder and helped him stand up. Lin Feng asked, "Great Elder, how do you feel?" The Great Elder said, "Lin Gongzi, don't worry. I am fine. I am just a little tired." "It's good that you are fine. We can rest assured," Lin Feng said. He paused for a moment and asked, "Great Elder, have you found out where the people of the ancestral land are?" The Great Elder nodded and smiled. "I have indeed sensed where the people of the ancestral land are. They seem to be in the southeast, in a place with water." "A place with water in the southeast?" Lin Feng couldn't help but look surprised. Even if he used the moon seal, he couldn't sense the exact location. He could only sense the general location. But even if he could sense the general location, it was already an important clue. Was in the sea. If it was in the sea, it would be the East Sea World. However, this place was still some distance away from the Sea World, and in this distance, there might be a lot of inland lakes. Therefore, they needed to determine where this place was. If it was in the sea, then it would be difficult to find. If it was in some inland lakes, then it might be easier to find. At that moment, Sikongyang said, "Is the place with water in the southeast Panyang Lake?" "What kind of place is Panyang Lake?" Lin Feng wasn't very familiar with the geography of the Great Yin World, so he asked. Sikongyang said, "Panyang Lake is the largest inland lake in the Great Yin World. If you head southeast from where we are, the first place with water will be Panyang Lake. Panyang Lake is very dangerous. There are many terrifying beasts living there. There are many terrifying seals in the depths of Panyang Lake. Those seals are very powerful. They directly seal off a large area. Cultivators can't easily enter. For the cultivators of the Great Yin World, Panyang Lake is an absolute forbidden area. Very few people go there. A few years ago, we tried to enter Panyang Lake to find the whereabouts of the people of the ancestral land, but we didn't find any clues. As far as I know, the Kinwu people and other forces also sent people to Panyang Lake to look for them, but they didn't find any clues either." Lin Feng said, "Maybe the people of the ancestral land are hiding very deeply and haven't come out. They've cut off all contact with the outside world. If that's the case, it'll be very difficult to find them." The Great Elder nodded and said, "That's right. If we find an extremely secretive hiding place in Panyang Lake, it won't be easy to find them if they don't come out. However, if we bring the Great Yin Seal, when we get close to them, the Great Yin Seal will be able to sense each other. If they're really in Panyang Lake, we'll definitely be able to find them." After hearing the Great Elder's words, Lin Feng was very happy. If that was the case, then it would be great. Lin Feng couldn't wait to see little Yao Yao. It was then that dozens of powerful cultivators passed through the restrictive barrier outside and arrived at this place. These cultivators were from the Kinwu people, the ancient demon clan, and some cultivators from the epic lost race. "We finally found them," a cultivator from the Kinwu people laughed. "We searched high and low for them, only to find them when we least expected it." A cultivator from the ancient demon clan laughed out loud. Seeing so many people arriving, moreover, they were all top experts. The leader was even a Saint Realm expert. The people of the Great Yin Ancient Emperor's bloodline panicked. At that moment, the cultivators quickly flew over and surrounded the survivors of the Great Yin Ancient Emperor's bloodline. Although the Great Yin Ancient Emperor's bloodline had the advantage in numbers, there were many old, weak, women, and children, as well as many disabled cultivators. There were only a few dozen of them who could fight. Compared to the top experts of the Great Yin Ancient Emperor's bloodline, the dozens of cultivators who could fight were naturally too weak. There was no suspense in this battle at all. Many people couldn't help but feel extremely desperate. Chapter 56-61. Lin Feng observed for a moment. Other than the cultivator from the ancient demon clan who was in the sage realm, the rest of them were all in the true immortal realm. Lin Feng could not help but sigh. The ancient demon clan, the lost race of the epoch, and the Kinwu people really had a lot of experts. Actually, thinking about it, it was understandable. For example, the ancient demon clan was the driving force behind the Great War of the Heavens. They were the top experts back then, but their strength had declined a lot now. The lost race of the epoch was even more so. They were a race that transcended epochs and had many experts. The Golden Crow clan itself was an extremely heaven-defying clan, and this clan had flourished for a long time. Their strength was extremely terrifying. And now, this race had seized the opportunity of the great changes at the end of the epoch. Their cultivation had improved very quickly. It was said that many people in this race had broken through to the true immortal realm, and some had even broken through to the sage realm. This was too terrifying. However, to Lin Feng, these people were not much of a threat because Lin Feng was too strong. Only those who were at the peak of the sage realm or beyond the quasi-sage realm could cause trouble for Lin Feng. If there was only an ordinary sage realm expert, it would be difficult for him to defeat Lin Feng. Lin Feng said with a smile, "Everyone, don't worry. It's just a bunch of motley crew. They won't be able to cause any trouble." After hearing Lin Feng's words, everyone was stunned. The cultivators of the great ancient emperor's bloodline were extremely shocked. They could not believe what they had heard. The other party was a sage realm expert and dozens of true immortal realm experts. Lin Feng actually said that they were a bunch of motley crew. Wasn't he looking down on them too much? When the cultivators of the three major forces heard Lin Feng's words, they were so angry that their bodies trembled. They were powerful people, but Lin Feng called them a bunch of motley crew. Was this a slap to their faces? Moreover, Lin Feng was such a young cultivator. He actually dared to call them a motley crew. They didn't know where Lin Feng's courage came from. He surprisingly dared say such things in front of them. An ancient demon clan cultivator looked at Lin Feng with a sinister smile and said, "Kid, I think you don't know how to spell the word death." As soon as he finished speaking, the ancient demon clan cultivator sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng, condensing a large energy handprint in the void. That energy palm blasted towards Lin Feng. The cultivator from the ancient demon clan was a golden immortal expert. His strength was quite strong. Therefore, the energy palm that he condensed emitted waves that made everyone feel suffocated. They all looked at Lin Feng worriedly. The Great Elder wanted to intervene because he was also a true immortal. If he intervened, he could at least save Lin Feng. However, before the Great Elder could do anything, Lin Feng had already made his move. Lin Feng flicked his finger and a sword chi flew out quickly towards the ancient demon clan cultivator. The sword chi instantly tore apart the energy palm formed by the ancient demon clan cultivator. Then, it quickly arrived in front of the ancient demon clan cultivator. Before the ancient demon clan cultivator could react, the sword chi had already split him into two. After seeing this scene, everyone was extremely shocked. They couldn't believe their eyes. The ancient demon clan cultivator was a golden immortal. How terrifying was his cultivation! However, he was instantly killed by Lin Feng. The people from the Taiyan ancient emperor's bloodline suddenly burst into cheers. Si Kongyang's face was full of shock. He knew that Lin Feng's cultivation was quite high, but he didn't expect Lin Feng to be so strong. It was really shocking. When the cultivators from the three major powers saw this scene, their faces became extremely gloomy. The ancient demon clan cultivator said coldly, "Kill them?" "Yes, sir." The cultivators from the three major powers replied. The three major powers were in an alliance, so they all addressed the ancient demon clan cultivator as sir. The experts from the three major powers all attacked. Some of them took out powerful Dharma treasures and activated them. With the help of the Dharma treasures, they released terrifying attacks. Some of them, on the other hand, displayed extremely powerful divine abilities. All kinds of attacks blasted towards Lin Feng and the others. Lin Feng smiled coldly. He condensed a gigantic energy dome which protected everyone. When the enemy's attacks arrived, they were all blocked by the gigantic energy dome. Lin Feng smiled coldly. He condensed a gigantic energy dome which protected everyone. When the enemy's attacks arrived, they were all blocked by the gigantic energy dome. Then, Lin Feng attacked these people. Lin Feng condensed the door of everlasting life. The door of everlasting life descended from the sky and suppressed those cultivators. The door of everlasting life emitted an unimaginably terrifying power. After feeling the terrifying power of the door of everlasting life, everyone's expressions changed. Everyone's expressions suddenly changed because they could feel the terrifying power of the door of everlasting life. Even the Saint Realm expert's expression became gloomy. Let's break that door of everlasting life together, the Sage Realm cultivator said in a deep voice. Then, he and dozens of true immortals attacked together. They blasted out all kinds of attacks towards the door of everlasting life. Even though the door of everlasting life was only a phantom, it was still enough to crush everything. When the attacks of the other party hit the door of everlasting life, they were all blocked by the door of everlasting life. They couldn't break the door of everlasting life at all. When the door of everlasting life pressed down, its destructive power instantly blasted the bodies of these cultivators. Following one explosion after another, the cultivators of the door of everlasting life were killed. One by one, the cultivators' bodies directly exploded. They died on the spot. Although the Sage Realm cultivator didn't die, he vomited blood from the impact of the door of everlasting life. The Sage Realm cultivator looked at Lin Feng with a terrified expression. He couldn't understand. Lin Feng was so young. How could his cultivation be so terrifying? He had seen countless geniuses, but he had never seen someone as heaven-defying as Lin Feng. He was scared out of his wits now. How could he continue to fight? He turned around and fled into the distance. But how could Lin Feng let him go? Under Lin Feng's control, the door of everlasting life pressed down on the Sage Realm cultivator again. The Sage Realm cultivator couldn't resist the suppression of the door of everlasting life. His body collapsed and his soul was destroyed on the spot. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.